aggressive rhetoric, and we are going to go over the rest of the spoilers. As you can see, we both got face cam up and we're ready to go.
Yeah, we are here. Hey, everyone, this is Will at Agro Rhetoric on Twitter, one half of the podcast Gutshot, the only Magic the Gathering podcast. And we're going to talk about some Zendikar Rising spoilers. We finally have the full set, and we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we absolutely do. I am War Crimes Uwu, the other two halves of the podcast. That's right, we're a podcast and a half. We are going to talk about the multicolored cards first. Is that right? Is that how we've chosen to do it?
How do you feel about starting with lands?
Sure, yeah. I will switch it over to lands.
Okay. Given that this is a land-centric set, it makes sense to kind of know what special lands we'll be dealing with when we get to the cards that are going to care about whether we have these lands or not.
Mm-hmm. So the land section has the backsides of all the cards that are also lands on the back.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating.
So we'll skip over those, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you want to talk about the basic land art real quick?
Yeah, we can mention it. As you all can see on the screen, we are getting the return of full art basics, very much in the vein of the ones that we have seen before in other Zendikar sets. As far as we know, none of these are illustrated by sexual predators. Yeah, I would like to think that that these just aren't, but they do look really cool. I'm especially loving the return of the Cup Islands, where you're seeing the waterfall come out of the big bowl.
Yeah, that one's pretty great. I also really like the Adam Paquette Forest, with the sort of hedron chunks, with the trees swirling around them. That's a favorite of mine. Yeah, I think those are my two favorite for sure. The plains with the tornado, but that's also Adam Paquette. Looks pretty good as well.
Pretty good. Yeah, I like the island whirlpool is a good one, but yeah, these will be great. As far as I know, you should be getting one of these every pack, but I don't believe that you'll be getting any of these in the bundle. So you can't buy the bundle and get a huge stack of 40 of these.
Yeah.
But you should be getting these pretty regularly in packs.
And in the Prospectors booster, the Uwu slot has a 1 in 7 chance. Okay, so yeah, that's the basic lands, full art basic lands. Glad they're back. So do you want to get right into the other lands? Do you want to start this one, or should I?
No, I'll go ahead and start us on this card. Very flavorful here. Base Camp enters the battlefield tapped, taps for a colorless, and then has a second ability, tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard spell, or to activate an ability of a cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard. So basically, this is the land that's going to enable the party mechanic. I don't have a lot of faith in this becoming like a constructive playable card because it comes into play tapped. And mana is pretty good so far, especially when the flip lands, the flip dual lands that we'll talk about here in a little bit, enter the fray. I don't think this land's going to see any constructive play. Just like how Party is not really going to see any constructive play. How do you feel about this one?
I pretty much agree. I think there's a chance that some party decks will be successful at FNM, especially with the aggressive tools that they've been given, but this card will definitely not be a part of that. I honestly feel like this card almost could just be printed without the enters the battlefield tapped line.
Yeah, that's why I was going to say tournament grounds did not come into play tapped, and it never really made the leap to standard playability. But this apparently needs to be tapped. Maybe we'll get something super busted in the D&D set to where this really needed to be toned down a little bit. But until we see what's in that set, this is kind of casual kitchen table decks will want this, but that's going to be it.
Yeah, and I think like the fact that tournament grounds didn't see play, and not only can it cast knights, but it can also cast Embercleave, just speaks to how bad this card is.
So not knocking it out of the park with this one. But what is our next land? We got to do a little investigation to figure out what it is.
Yeah. Real quick, did you check the audio? Make sure that we're coming in good on the stream.
Give me 1 moment.
Would you mind doing that real quick? So.
Yeah, I'm going to mute you in Discord, and then just, if you don't mind, just finding the next card and talking about it so I can hear.
Sure. Yeah, so The next card, I'm not sure how we want to do these Oh, we've talked about the pathways already because they were out when we. Okay, we don't need to worry about pathways. Throne of McKindy. Taps for a colorless. Pay 1 and tap. Put a charge counter on the Throne of McKindy. Tap. Remove a charge counter from Throne of McKindy. Add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast kicked spells. This is pretty bad. You might want it in the limited blue-green kicker deck, but you would literally take any blue or green bear over this. It seems really terrible. Honestly, this could really just be fine saying tap to add 1 mana of any color to spend on kicked spells. It also probably shouldn't have to pay a mana to put a charge counter on it. This just lets you save up your mana to spend on kicked spells, but it doesn't even let you save up more than 1 at a time. I just don't think any kicker deck is going to want this, aside from in limited. If they want the blue-green kicker deck, with the Snake Dude, to be good in standard, then the land that enables it needs to be a lot stronger than this.
All right, so we're on Throne of McKindy, correct?
Yeah, this card's bad, right?
Okay, just checking out the audio here. My audio on the stream is being weirdly doubled a little bit. I don't know if that's something that's going on in Discord or not. The stream can hear me, but it sounds a little weird. I don't know if there's something doubling, maybe in OBS.
I'm not sure. I am only receiving you through my headphones. So unless my microphone is also picking you up through my headphones, I'm going to turn you down in my headphones and see if that works. Can you say something?
Okay.
Okay, as long as you talk at that volume, I'll be able to hear you, and that should fix it.
Okay, sure.
So do you want to get the next one?
Yeah, with Throne of McKindy, it's kind of only cast kick spells. There's a little opportunity for someone to build a Kicker Matters deck, but I guess this deck will play it, or that deck will play this card. But other than that, just don't see this card really doing anything.
Yeah, I honestly don't think the Kicker Matters deck will play this. I think it's too inefficient at storing mana.
No, I don't like this land at all. I do like the next one. This is Crawling Barrens. This is just a colorless land. Comes into play untapped. Taps to add 1 colorless. Has the activated ability for generic mana to put 2 +1/+1 counters on Crawling Barrens. Then you may have it become a 0/0 elemental creature until end of turn. It's still a land. Colorless man land that grows over time. I would compare this to Mobilized District in the current standard of War of the Spark, which is rotating at the moment. This is a pretty cool card. If Mobilized District is not seeing play, I don't think this is going to see standard play. So obviously, Powerhouse in Limited, but I don't see this making the jump to standard.
Hot take. I think this could be a modern house.
Okay.
I'm comparing it to Raging Ravine in my head, and
Sure.
I think it's quite good. I think this will be really good in Tron, especially the Tron builds that are playing Karn the Great Creator. This will be good in the mirror match because it's a way to kill him without an artifact. You don't have to, because Walking Ballista can't kill your opponent's Karn, but a Crawling Barrens can because it's not an artifact, so you can still activate it and make it a creature. The fact that it gets bigger every time, and that unlike Raging Ravine, you can activate it twice if you have enough mana and put 4 counters on it in 1 turn.
Yeah, that seems like a good use of it. I'm still going to hold Steadfast. I don't think this is standard playable, but
Sure.
older formats that have the ability to kind of abuse it definitely can. So
Sure.
This is one to look out for sure. And,
I'm very high on it.
Oh yeah, sounds good. What is our next card?
It is not a land. We are done with all the lands.
We're done with lands. Okay, so we decided not to talk about pathways. We did talk about.
We did
talk about
last
that
time
a little bit before.
Yeah.
We did. All right. Let's
So
move
artifacts
on
or color
let's
or
move on
multicolor?
let's move on to artifacts.
Okay. But we'll skip the colored ones because they'll show up in the colors.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. All right. So I guess I have the next one. Utility Knife is 1 for an equipment. And when it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. And it has Equip 3. An equipped creature gets +1/+1. Well, what do you think about this card?
Yeah, I do. I do like equipment. I do play an equipment based deck in Pauper. You know, it's a like an Azorius Cobblade replica. I do like this as an equipment. I don't think the Equip 3 really kills it.
Yeah.
Especially like in Pauper in this deck, and then like other decks that I've seen that use equipment, having an equip of 3, you know, is a little too much, especially in those formats that really want to conserve mana. Attaching the target creature control is pretty nice, but it's a cool design space, but I don't think the power is really there.
Yeah, I feel like this could have costed equip 2, because like if we compare it to short sword is 1 and 1 to equip. And in that Pauper deck, which is probably the thing that's most likely to play it, 3 mana can get you Brainstorm Squadron Hawk, and this just is not that. So I think I'm on the same page as you with this one.
Do you think that this will be something that we'll see a lot of play in limited?
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty good in limited. You put it on your flyer, and then like equip is a mana sink later.
Yeah, because you'll have the extra mana in the late turns, right?
Yeah, and you don't mind spending a card to put a counter on one of your guys that you can kind of put on another guy later. Yeah, I think this will definitely see, like, a limited decks will want 1 copy of this. It'll suck when you draw a second one usually, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Especially in those like red-white warrior decks that I'm sure are going to have some equipment utility stuff to go with the utility knife. This would be a good one to turn those synergies on.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure you're running enough creatures though unlimited if you're going to run a lot of equipment. You usually don't want more than 1 or 2 equipment.
Yes.
Yeah. You got the next one.
Move on to the next one. Stonework Pack Beast. This is a 2 mana 2/1 artifact creature beast. This card is also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So it's going to add 1 to your party no matter what else that you have. And then it has 2 mana to generic mana to add 1 mana of any color. So this really is kind of just like a little workhorse card. None of this is super powerful on its own, but they all come together to help you out in a lot of different ways. If you're wanting to turn on party synergies, it does that. If you just need not a bear, but you know, if you just need a 2-drop that can attack and block, this does that, even though it's below rate. If you just need to color fix, even at a loss, this does it. So it's cool that there's this card that can fill in holes. And be so versatile. And as we've seen, versatility in Magic cards is worth a lot.
Yeah, I agree. People, to put it into perspective, in the Guilds of Ravnica Limited, like, people didn't feel awful playing this card without the party mechanic. Like, it was just a 2 mana 2/1 that you could pay 2 to add 1 mana of any color. Prismite, I believe it was, and people were fine to play that in the War of the Spark Limited, so that they could sort of cast their hybrid planeswalkers if they were only playing 1 of the colors, like in an easier way, like that kind of thing. And it was just a bear that allowed them to stretch a little bit outside their colors. So I think in this format, with it also being an insane help to party decks will be looking to catch 2 or 3 of these circling the drain in draft.
Yeah, this will be much more playable than what's the one where it's just the mana ability? It's like prismatic something. This is a lot more playable than that card.
Than Prismite, yeah.
Prismite, yes, that's it.
Yeah, and it did see play in War of the Spark Limited, so...
Yeah, sure. So this will be a higher pick than that. So
yeah, for sure.
Good to have.
So Spare Supplies is 2 mana for an artifact. It enters tapped. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. You can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice it to draw a card. Immediately, this reminds me of Ichor Wellspring, but just probably worse. It doesn't... It's not like you can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice it, and whenever you sacrifice it, you draw a card. It's not like Chromatic Star. You have to pay the mana to tap and sacrifice it to draw a card. So it's kind of a slower, spread-out divination, I guess, is what you might treat this as.
It's card draw for white.
Yeah.
Finally. We got there, boys.
Yep, white has card draw. Everyone stop tweeting at Mark Rosewater.
This is not really related to anything, but with this being such a like there being like an equipment sub theme in the set, I think this really ought to just be equipment. It would be cool if they would experiment with this a little bit and make it equipment that doesn't have an equip ability or something like that, just to play around with the types a little bit. That would be pretty cool. Flavorfully, this should count as equipment, but obviously doesn't do anything with creatures. But that would have been cool. So
I think that would make everyone on Reddit whatever the opposite of soy face is. There was a debacle when in Theros Beyond Death there was an enchantment that turned a creature into just an enchantment, and it said, so it still had its abilities but it didn't have power or toughness or whatever, it was just an enchantment, but it said enchant creature or enchantment, and people didn't understand why you would ever turn an enchantment into an enchantment, not realizing that the rules of the game would make it so it has to be able to enchant an enchantment, otherwise it would fall off when the creature stops being a creature.
Right.
And that was like a huge debacle. That was very difficult for people to understand.
You definitely have to be more careful about that stuff, but it'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Move on next card.
Yeah, there would also be ways to attach it to your creatures in this set, which I think are kind of funny. I just was hoping they'd reprint Bludgeon Brawl, and they didn't, so...
For sure.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one. This is Skyclave Sentinel. This is a 3-mana 2/3 artifact creature gargoyle with kicker of 4 generic. Flying Defender, so 3-mana 2/3 Flying Defender. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and as long as it has a +1/+1 counter on it, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So, this is, undercosted for what it is. It's cool that you can kick it for 7 mana, it's going to be a 4/5 flyer, which is, not nothing, especially in limited. This seems like the type of card that's just a limited filler creature in colorless, decks can fill in holes below ranked and just fill out their curve. Is that how you're seeing this?
That's how I'm seeing it, yeah. You might put this in the counters deck, just intending to cast it without kicker and then put a counter on it later with one of your cards that's just able to do that. And then have like a 3/4 flyer that you paid 3 for, which is, obviously fine. So I think if any deck actually wants this, it's those, but I agree that most decks aren't playing this because they want to.
Hey, 7 mana 4/5 will win games though, so not a terrible pickup, especially at the end of your pack.
Yeah, I just think like this will be another very aggressive limited format like the original Zendikar. Like we have step links in a different color, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So next we've got Seagate Colossus. This is a 7-mana 7/5 Golem Warrior. Cost 1 less for each creature in your party. So, let's say that you usually will have 1 creature in your party. This is a 6-mana 7/5. That's not bad. 2 creatures in your party, it's a 5-mana 7/5, and then you're pretty happy. You'd pick that most of the time. What do you think about this card?
It looks bad. Comparing this to the card we just talked about, I'd much rather have the previous card, the Skyclave Sentinel. I'm not looking to play this, but I'm willing to be wrong. Maybe there'll be a solid ground beater.
Yeah, I think Skyclave Sentinel is one of those cards that just sort of it'll prey on people who are bad at Magic. You'll be in situations where you'd be much better off not kicking it, but you just really don't want to play it not kicked. So you'll hold it, and then you'll be dead with it in your hand. Or you'll play it unkicked later than you need to, because you were hoping to save up the mana to kick it. I think it's one of those cards. And I think Kicker does that generally, but...
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a thought that I just had about Skyclave Sentinel. But yeah, I'm a lot higher on this card in Limited. I think if you have 1 or 2 party members, this card's a great rate. And there's not too much it trades with in this set. So I like it.
Okay, I'm down on it, but I guess we'll see. Yeah. We'll move on to the next card here. Oh no, this is colored. So we'll go on to the next card. This is a Cliffhaven Kite Sail. 1 mana artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. We may have talked about this the last time we did a stream. As you'll notice, every single artifact equipment that we're talking about here has the ability to automatically be attached to a creature when it comes into play. So everything we talk about is going to have that. Equipped creature has flying and equips for 2 mana. I think that this pushes the gives flying equipment it gives flying equipment, gives it that push that it needs to be more playable in limited. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this in limited.
Yeah. I wonder if this changed the way that equipment works, if that's just for this set, or if they're going to try to do that moving forward.
That's a
But
good question.
yeah,
And they could definitely try. Yeah.
yeah. I think the card's definitely good. I think I've been not happy to play this card in the past, but like fine to. It was pretty good in Theorist Beyond Death. You could sacrifice it to make the creature unblockable until
That
end of
was
turn.
Cobbled Wings, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was the Icarus flavored one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that this is definitely better than that, and I was okay with playing it there. So yeah, I think this card will be alright.
Yeah, those equipment have always been teetering on the brink of playability. It was, from my understanding, they always kind of leaned more towards the card that you would cut to get down to like 23 or whatever you're shooting for, just because they were a little below rate. I think that this is the card that's just exactly on rate, where you would want to make sure you have at least one slot in your decks for this card. So yeah, I think this will prove to be more playable than those in this upcoming format.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got the next one, Relic Vial. 3 for an artifact. Pay 2, tap it, sacrifice a creature, draw a card. And as long as you control a cleric, Relic Vial has, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1, you gain 1 life. So that sacrifice creature draw a card ability is really inefficient. This is super bad unless you have a cleric. And if you have a cleric, then it's a blood artist, but I just don't see a lot of sort of aristocrat synergies in the set from what we've seen so far. So I just think this card's kind of going to be a fish out of water as far as limited goes.
Yeah, you're not really going to want to play this unlimited. The only home for this is those Orzhov cleric commander decks. That's all that really wants this. We'll say this isn't uncommon. We're now into the uncommon
Oh yeah,
artifacts. But yeah, this is just bad.
yeah,
It's basically cleric tribal for EDH.
yeah, and not very good at that. Yeah. So you got the next one.
Yeah. So this is Relic Golem, 3 mana 6/6. Yep, that's 3 mana 6/6. Artifact creature Golem. Relic Golem can't attack or block unless an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. As we've seen in the cards that we talked about last week, that's the ability of the rogue sub theme within the set. So you'll want to be looking to play this if you have a lot of rogues that are milling or also have triggers or special things that happen when your opponent has 8 cards in their graveyard.
Yeah.
But it has a bit of extra text, 2 mana, generic, and then tap. Target player mills 2 cards. So this card can actually mill your opponent while it's sitting there, possibly not being able to attack or block because their graveyard isn't full.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, your opponent's graveyard is going to fill up just naturally during the game. Just playing this on turn 3, I don't exactly know how to examine this card. It seems like we would just have to see how the limited format turns out. From what you're saying, it sounds like it's going to be a more aggressive, and if this is a more aggressive format, this is not going to see that much play. Is that right?
Yeah, well, one of the decks that appears to be pretty aggressive is the Rogue deck that's sort of incidentally milling while it's attacking, and this is a shoe-in for that, but you're also, this card doesn't power itself. It's gonna die before you fill your opponent's graveyard up. It's not worth it if the deck isn't built around this, and if you don't have other ways to fill up the graveyard faster, or if you're not okay with just playing this later in the game. So this card's awkward. I wouldn't say it's, self-sufficient in the way that, Vantress Gargoyle could be.
Right. Yeah. It does seem a little awkward, but maybe if you have rogues, maybe just one of these probably as like a mana sink to kind of help power up the rest of what you're doing, and just incidentally turn it into a 6/6 that could beat in might be worth it. But
yeah, for sure.
We'll just have to see. How about the next card?
Okay, so the next card is Relic Axe. It's 2 for an equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. The equipped creature gets +1/+1. If it's a warrior, it gets +2/+1 instead, and this equips for 2. So it's 1 more mana to cast, 1 less mana to equip. than the common equipment that we saw, and it gives warriors an extra +1 power. I think this one's fine. This one's probably a little. I don't want to say it's a little more playable than utility knife because, it does cost one more. You can't just cast it on a turn that you kind of have to devote a turn to casting it in a way that you wouldn't necessarily with a 1-drop.
Yeah, I would say in terms of playability, it's probably on the exact same level as a utility knife. I do actually like this card. The equip mana being 2, and then getting that extra warrior synergy is pretty good. If you're playing a warrior deck, obviously you're going to try to get one of these in there. Then it's going to be great. Even with just the +1/+1, I think the rate is right, just exactly right for this one for it to be good. So I like this, but it's kind of a toss up between this and utility knife if you need equipment for your limited deck.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if your deck is full of warriors, you're going to want this more, but yeah, if you're just playing a deck with a lot of flyers and you want some equipment to put on them, you might take utility knife instead.
If you're playing Boros Warriors, I think this card will prove to be pretty good.
For sure. Yeah.
Right, it'll often, unless you just need creatures, this will be the card that you will want to draw a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next one. Relic Amulet. This is a 2-mana artifact. Whenever you cast an instant, sorcery, or wizard spell, put a charge counter on Relic Amulet, and then you can pay 2 generic tap, remove all charge counters from Relic Amulet. It deals that much damage to target creature. So this is, an artifact that's kind of playing into the wizard subtype, which does things when you play instant sorceries or other wizard. This looks really slow, though. Maybe you would get some incidental stuff on it, but the fact that it doesn't really do anything on its own unless you're playing cards that fuel it, unless your limited deck is super tuned for this, it doesn't seem like this is really going to be doing all that much. Do you feel the same way on this one?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think the most you're going to get out of this is 2 shocks over the course of a game, and it costs too much for that to be viable and demands too much of the way you build your deck for that to be viable. You also have to remove all the charge counters when you activate it. You can't just remove X charge counters to do that much damage. There's just a lot of things they could have done to make this card playable, but instead it feels like it's going to circle the drain.
Yeah. I wouldn't be proven wrong on this.
Maybe.
All right. So we're saving the gold. We talked about the pickaxe. Oh, we talked about Mine Carver too.
Yeah.
So now we're going to Skyclave Relic.
Yep. So this is 3. It is an artifact. A lot of people were talking about this as a shoe-in for Commander and stuff. Kicker 3, indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create 2 tapped tokens that are copies of Skyclave Relic. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. For what it's worth, I think it is probably the best 3-drop mana rock that we've ever gotten for Commander. You can pay 6 instead of 3 and get 2 more copies of it, which is kind of like it's kind of a better Gilded Lotus, because you can tap them all independently and they all have indestructible. This is immune to Shatterstorm in a way that other mana rocks aren't. So, speaking purely of Commander, this card's great, but Commander's a bad format, so, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a really interesting card. Obviously it's going to slot into that 3 mana, mana rock slot for a Commander. It's a really interesting design space. They seem to really be leaning in more to creating copies of permanents, like with Jace. Jace is doing something similar. And I think it's speaking a lot to how Arena is affecting Magic design. And I think this is one more example of that.
Yeah.
Were it me, unless I was building a deck that was designed to break this, I think that I would probably just want Chromatic Lantern. But the Indestructible is pretty good.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of bad formats, you're definitely going to want this for your Commander decks. But, it's fun card.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the next one here. Myriad Construct. This is a 4 mana for a 4/4 artifact creature construct. So fine right there, and it has Kicker 3. If Myriad Construct was kicked, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each non-basic land your opponents control. In Standard, As of right now, it seems like that's going to be a lot even for standard, and then of course that's going to be higher for older formats.
Yeah.
When Myriad Construct becomes the target of a spell, sacrifice it and create a number of 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature tokens equal to its power. So kind of Hangerback Walker, right? Didn't Hangerback Walker kind of work this way?
Yeah, I would compare it to Hangerback Walker. You just don't have the option to play it for 2 and then keep making it bigger over the course of the game,
Yes,
which is kind of
definitely.
what made Hangerback Walker good.
Definitely a step down for this. It's definitely a cool card. It seems like it's supposed to be a way to punish your opponent for playing non-basic lands, and I don't know if this is going to get there. It is 7 mana to get that extra ability, but a 4/4 that dies and just leaves 4 1/1s does seem like it's playable. Maybe this will be like Stone Coil Serpent, where it's just like a good kind of filler card. If you don't know exactly which one to play, but you just need something. This can be a 4 mana creature that comes into play and kind of just plays well with a myriad of decks. Do you see this seeing any play in Standard?
I honestly don't. I think looking at the second ability, like, it only makes the guys if it becomes the target of a spell. So board wipes don't let you get any guys. Trading with a death touch creature doesn't let you get any guys. There's just a lot of ways to deny the player playing this the extra creatures and just make it a 4 mana 4/4. So no, I don't really see this seeing play anywhere. The kind of decks that can get this out easily do it by getting it out earlier in the game than you should be getting out a 7-drop. And then they're probably not even going to get 3 counters on it that way. So it's not going to even be on curve. So no, I'm very low on this card. I'm going to be sad to open it as a rare.
All right, fair enough. It kind of has that look to it, doesn't it? Just kind of a disappointing colorless rare.
It has a bad card vibe, yeah. What was that guy that it had an activated ability for all 5 colors? It was in one of the Ravnica sets.
Sentry Sentinel, Sentry Guardian, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Really, like, it was an X drop, and it had basically Sunburst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, terrible card. This is that of this set.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, Lithoform Engine is 4 mana, legendary artifact, 2 in tap, copy target activated or triggered ability you control, you may choose new targets for the copy. 3 in tap, copy target instant or sorcery you control, you may choose new targets for the copy. 4 in tap, copy target permanent spell you control. The copy becomes a token. I think this card is terrible. I think it's way overhyped. I think it is preying on the kinds of players who don't want to have to decide what their deck should do. Especially like commander players who just kind of want to like soy face at all the strong cards in their colors are going to be playing this. If you want to do any of these things, there are much more efficient ways to do it. You can just pay 5 mana for an enchantment that's going to copy all of your instants and sorceries. You can pay 1 mana or 2 mana or whatever for a Strionic Resonator, which just has the first ability and isn't legendary. You can there's much easier ways to copy your creatures, or your permanent spells. Like, that third ability is the only one that's this uniquely might do maybe a little bit more efficiently, or, like, efficiently enough that it could compare to the other ways to do it. But this card is just a compilation of other cards that are too slow and greedy to see play in any competitive format.
Sure. Would you say the same thing about Staff of Domination? Because isn't Staff of Domination just a mix-up of abilities that are not on rate by themselves, but it becomes a good card by putting them all together?
It is not good because of those abilities. It is good because of the infinite combos that it's part of in Commander. Yeah, it can generate infinite mana with a creature that can tap for more than 3 mana. So, like Kydel. Like, that's what the Kydel decks in Commander tried to do. And then once you have the infinite mana, it can do any of its effects infinitely.
So no one plays Staff of Domination for value?
I have not seen that happening. There might be some weird Legacy decks, because Legacy decks do whatever, but I don't know. Are you going to get me?
No,
Oh, okay.
I know nothing about it. The point I'm trying to make is that I think the flexibility of this is worth something. Options are powerful, and yeah, all of these are below rate, and they're not tuned or anything. But even in Commander, you only have 100 cards. You have to find flexibility somewhere. This gives it. So I'm going to say that I'm a little higher on this for Commander than you are. I would definitely want to play this and open up more slots for me to do more powerful things with other cards. But yeah, so that's how I feel about it.
I just don't feel like you're opening any other slots, because if you're playing Strionic Resonator, chances are your deck is built around it, and you don't really want to do either of the other two things. But yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know a lot about Commander because I'm not a virgin. You have the next card.
Okay, yes, I feel vindicated. Everyone was saying, Wizards as well, that there was going to be no Eldrazi in this set, and I kept thinking, there's got to be something. There's going to be one thing that harkens back to Eldrazi. I thought would be like a big colorless creature that was in the vein of Eldrazi, but we got this instead. But I still feel a little vindicated. This is Forsaken Monument. It's a 5-mana legendary artifact. Colorless creatures you control get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for colorless mana, add an additional colorless mana, and whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. Now, I don't think this is constructed playable. I think this is for those Eldrazi Titan commander decks, like your Ulamog commander deck. That's what this is for. It's pretty cool that we're getting some callback to the Eldrazi in the set, even though they're largely absent.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some Tron list played this in the sideboard, just to grab it with Karn the Great Creator, to play like much more giant walking ballistas or something, just because it will make all of your lands tap for more colorless. Yeah, like that's the only thing I really see happening. It's also like a double anthem for like Thopters. I don't know. There's more potential in this card than I think some people give it credit for. This is never going to be used with Eldrazi, is the thing. It's just going to be used with artifacts. And artifact creatures.
Actually, that's probably a better way to look at it. This is for artifact decks instead of Eldrazi.
I mean, I think people will play it, like you said, in their Eldrazi commander decks, but if this ever sees competitive play, it's going to be because of some synergy that it has with other artifacts, or with a way to make artifact creatures.
Yeah, or Tron, where you're just doing a lot with colorless mana. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And Tron barely plays non-artifact cards anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Just cool card. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad we get something Eldrazi in this set.
Yeah.
But that does it for the artifact.
So multicolored now.
Let's move on to multicolored, and we have not talked about any multicolored cards just yet. So we're going to go through the entirety, all of the draft signpost uncommons, all of the splashy, exactly, all these splashy mythic new commanders are all good, and all of the planeswalkers except one will be here. So this is a powerhouse category. Yes. And before we move on anymore, we have Holler the Clown saying, "Love war crimes." So let's be talking about be talking about your name there. And then we got Lefty Carter, who left a virtual hug emote and then Franker Z emote with the dog. So we're getting some love in the chat today.
Yay, I'm glad. What's up? I know who both of those people are, and I appreciate them both. One of them is about to do a tabletop role-playing game campaign with me, and the other one is my girlfriend. And it is good to see those heart emojis rolling in.
We appreciate the love.
We do. We also appreciate the hate. Either one helps our metrics.
And any hate comments we get, we will read.
Yes, we will read them out loud for everyone to hear. Okay, so signposts and commons are my favorite part of any set. Love the way that they help me try to figure out the limited format. They tend to be pretty interesting designs, except the red-blue one is always some variation of prowess. The red-blue signpost and commons always the most disappointing one. I haven't actually read this one, but let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's go. I think you got the first one. We're starting at the bottom with Umara Mystic.
Umara Mystic. 1, a blue and a red for a 1/3 flyer. Whenever you cast an instant, sorcerer, or wizard spell, Umara Mystic gets +2/+7 until end of turn. So I was right.
That's exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a fucking boring prowess creature. God forbid they ever give us, Goblin Electromancer's kind of different from that. I mean, what else can blue-red do? Like, equipment matters, maybe? Or something, I don't know. Elemental, tribal.
People love these type of cards, and honestly, this is pretty close to a We Dragonauts, a very well-loved card.
Yeah, I know my brother really loved the short time that he played Standard was Battle for Zendikar block, and there was like a 1/3 haste prowess for a blue and a red that was in there that he really loved. So he loves the Spellslinger's prowess sort of decks. So I guess this will be cool for him if this sees any play. I think this is a little too weak, a little too overcosted to see play. Like, compare it to like Adelice the Cinderwind.
This is actually looking at We Dragonauts now in the thesaurus. This is actually just a better We Dragonauts. It's We Dragonauts is a fairy, but Merfolk, Umara Mystic is a Merfolk, which is a more relevant tribe for like synergies that way. If I was looking to play one or the other, I'd probably start picking the Mystic over Dragonaut.
We Dragonauts triggers on non-creature spells, though, right?
No, instant or sorcery spell.
Oh, okay, so this also triggers on wizards. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Exactly.
So yeah, this is strictly better.
Yeah, unexciting for a signpost uncommon. I'll agree.
Yeah. Did we Dragonauts see play in Standard?
No, I don't think it did at all.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I know people like it. Okay, yeah. I also thought it was a blue and a red for some reason. But yeah, you have the next one. This one's exciting. This is the only card I like with Party.
Yeah, so this is Spoils of Adventure. This is I believe this is the Azorius signpost uncommon. I'm not seeing anything else. Mm-hmm. So Spoils of Adventure, 6 mana, 4 colorless, and then a white and a blue. Instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party, and then you gain 3 life and draw 3 cards. So drawing 3 cards for 6 mana that you can get at a discount. So I guess Party is what you'll want to be doing in your blue-white decks. And this seems, like a good rate for drawing 3 cards.
Yeah, I think like if you usually play 1 or 2 copies of Concentrate in Limited if you can get them, and this if you're really leaning into the Party, this is a strictly better Concentrate. So yeah, and if you just have 2 party members out, which isn't that hard by turn 4, then this is a strictly better Concentrate. If you have 3 party members out, then this is insane. This is a disgusting rate. And there's a lot of 1-drop and 2-drop party members that can extend their usefulness into the late game. So you won't mind playing more copies of those, which in turn will make this a little bit more likely to be castable at 3 or 4 mana. So I'm pretty high on this card in Limited. And honestly, if Party sees play in Standard, it might be because of this. You play enough cheap party creatures, you're drawing 3 cards and gaining 3 life for a blue and a white.
Yep, that's pretty good. If you pick these up early and Limited, stop the automatic muscle movements to draft a low to the ground flyers deck. Draft Party instead, and this card will pay you off for it.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got the next one.
Yeah, this is one that looks very exciting for me. Ravager's Mace. This is 3 mana, 1 colorless, and then black and red. Artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, the same text before. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 for each creature in your party and has menace. And it equips for 2 colorless and then black and the red. I'm a big fan of menace. I think giving a creature menace plus a little bit of extra value for 3 mana is pretty good rate. Sticks around. Equipping for 4 is not too bad. And I think that this is probably worth playing if you're in these colors solidly and only have incidental parties. Party. And of course, if you have a whole bunch of parties, it'll be good. But I actually would play this even in a non-party specific deck. Would you do the same?
Largely, yeah. Mostly because I think in this set you kind of have to try to draft a deck that doesn't have some party creatures in it. Like, most of the creatures in this set are a party member. I think it's something like 80%, and that's even higher for commons and uncommons. Like, most of the creatures in the set are party, so I think it would be foolish to say that this will just be menace ever. I think it will, as long as you have a creature to equip it to, it'll probably at least give +1 power. And I think if you evaluate it as such, then it's a pretty good on-curve equipment for attaching free. So yeah, I'd be pretty comfortable playing one or two of these.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Menace. Anything that gives Menace to my creatures, I really like.
Did you ever end up
So
making that Menace Tribal deck work with the Black-Red Rare from Ikoria?
I never pulled a single one of those from Ikoria.
Damn.
I do not own the card, and I'm not going to spend wild cards on it, so I never got to play with it.
Wow, what a coward.
Exactly. Let's move on to the next one. This is Celestnia's Signpost Uncommon.
Yeah, this is Marasa Rootgrazer, a green and a white for a 2/3 Vigilance. You can tap to put a basic land card from your hand onto the battlefield, or tap to return target basic land you control to its owner's hand. This could see play in some weird modern Nick Fit deck that like wants to trigger Field of the Dead over and over again. That I don't think that they will play this card, but this will be a pretty strong powerhouse in limited, especially if you can get some Naya landfall going. I'm really glad they didn't put this in the same colors as the sort of color shifted reprint of Step Links, because this would make that very strong. But
yeah, that probably would have been too much.
Yeah, over an undercosted, an above rate vigilance creature with activated abilities that require it to tap, which doesn't really cost anything because it has vigilance. Yeah, this card's great. I think this is one of the best Signpost uncommons.
Yeah. It's exactly the 2-drop that you want. 2/3 vigilance. You definitely want this on turn 2. It'll attack and block, and then you can just start getting value out of those abilities. This seems pretty good.
Yeah. You got the next one.
All right, so this is Simics. This is Lull Mage's Familiar. 3 mana, 1 generic, green and blue. It's a 2/4 beast. And then it taps for mana, tap to add either green or blue. And then whenever you cast a kicked spell, you gain 2 life. So, Simic's going to be the, Kicker Matters, giving you extra ability when you're playing kicked spells. Both colors have good kicker spells, in their commons and uncommons. So this is just going to ramp you and then give you a little bit of extra value out of the kickers. Gaining 2 life is not really that much, in the grand scheme of things. You would have to really be like looping and kicking like a ton for that to really add up. You're mostly just going to play this as a middle of the road blocker and also just ramping your mana. So this isn't a bad card, but it's not broken or like breaking the game by itself. Do you agree?
I think this is a mana dork that blanks bears, and I think that if you're excited about the Gargoyle, then this card should look good to you, because it gets you to that faster, and the little 2 life, like, you can almost pretend that's not there, like, because it barely matters, but it's a mana dork that blanks bears. Sorry, I meant to say blanks bears. Like, if they've got 2/2s, they just swing into this. They can't swing into this, so, like, I think it's easy to underestimate a 3 mana 2/4, but that's one of the best stat lines you can get for a 3-drop.
Sure, yeah. Seems, So, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a Cleric of Life's Blood, a white and a black, for a 2/2 Vampire Cleric. Whenever another Cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, and whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Cleric of Life's Blood. So this is not quite a Johnny's Pridemate. You can't swing with Linden and put 4 counters on this, but it does a decent a Johnny's Pridemate impression, and it can gain life on its own. I think this will see some standard play.
Yeah. If you think so, I'm willing to agree there. This does seem kind of bad to me, though. Because it's only gaining the 1. It doesn't trigger on its own. It doesn't grow from itself. Unless you're heavy into clerics, this is just a 2/2 for 2. That may grow into like a 3/3. I'm actually low on this card. Doesn't seem like it's really going to give you any extra power in your limited deck.
In limited, I think this card's even better. I think this card's awesome, and it's a great enabler for the cleric deck in limited. The reason I think this will see play in standard is because we still have Beloved Princess in the 1-drop slot. You play this turn 2, hit him with Beloved Princess, and this immediately gets a counter. And then, like, a lot of cards that you play anyway are clerics. I think Impassioned Order is rotating. But I think there's enough incidental clerics that this card will be good there.
Yeah.
There's an obvious home run for Commander Cleric Tribal and Vampire Tribal. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not feeling this one.
okay.
Maybe the cleric deck in limited will show it. Will show it to be good in limited, but I cannot see this seeing any play in standard.
Okay, I think we're equally likely to be wrong about this. We'll see how this plays
Yeah,
out.
pretty much on that one. Let's move on to the next one. This is Brushfire Elemental, the Gruul Signpost Uncommon.
It's
2
a
mana.
lore.
Yeah. It's 2 mana, 1 red, 1 green, 1/1 just naturally. But it has haste. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so it can get past those smaller creatures. And then has a landfall ability, so red green you're going to be doing landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Brushfire Elemental gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So play this on 2 mana. You swing for 1. You get past your opponent's 2/2 that they played on turn 2.
Mm-hmm.
On turn 3, you play a land, play your 3-drop as normal. You're swinging in with a 3/3 that is also getting past that the bear. Might trade for the 3-drop next turn. But yeah, this just seems very aggressive and very good to me.
Yeah, this seems great to follow up the red step links. If you're in Jund, you can slap Ravager's Mace on this on turn 3. And then it's just really hard to block forever. Yeah, I think this card's pretty good. I think it's going to really suck on the turns that you don't have a land in the late game, but if you're drafting this with other landfall enablers, then that's less likely to happen.
Right, exactly. I like this good in multiples. If you're playing, red green, you're probably going to want as many of these as you want, as you can get.
Yeah, for sure. So next we've got Soaring Thought Thief. Blue and a green for a 1/3 human rogue. Flash flying. As long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, rogues you control get +1/0. And whenever one or more rogues you control attacks, each opponent mills 2 cards. So it's a flyer. The flash is kind of incidental, but it's a flyer. Very easy, low risk to fill up your opponent's graveyard, and he's a rogue lord as long as your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. So he affects all your rogues. You get 2 of these out, you're going insanely aggressive in blue-black. This card's I think, pretty self-evidently strong.
Yes, I think this is really good. Once you have any sort of rogues like the rogue like having 8 or more cards in your opponent's graveyard is going to turn on very quickly. So this is just very good.
Yeah, I'm looking up Merfolk's Secret Keeper real quick to see if that is a rogue. No, it's a wizard. Okay, that sucks. Because I thought that would really enable the strategy of deck to maybe work in standard. But yeah, I think this card's good. I think it goes well with that rogue that came out in M20. That's a good 1-drop if you want this to try to work in constructed. It's a possibility. But yeah, Rogue Lord, good to see it. Good use of the blue-black signpost and common signpost and common slot. You've got the next one.
Yeah, so this is Moss Pit Skeleton, 2 mana, 2/2, so black and green. It's a plant skeleton. I know everyone loves their plant skeletons. Kicker for 3 colorless. If Moss Pit Skeleton was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, if Moss Pit Skeleton is in your graveyard, you may put Moss Pit Skeleton on top of your library. So this card, it's going to start out as a bear, which every deck needs. You can kick it in the late game to make it a little bit better, and then if you're putting +1/+1 counters on stuff, which I'm sure is what Golgari wants to do.
Yeah.
This is just going to be not recursion, but it's going to be coming back. And in the late game, if you play this as a 2, or the early game when you play this as a 2-drop and it just trades, then you get the ability to kick it later when you draw it off the top of your deck. This seems just like a good card.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great that you can trade it as a bear early and then bring it back later as a 5/5. Like in the late game, what you want a top deck pretty much all the time would be a 5-mana 5/5. So it's very good that this can sort of come back as soon as you draw whatever mediocre spell you drafted that puts a +1/+1 counter on a guy. So next we've got Kargan War Leader. Looks vaguely like Ted Cruz. One, a red and a white in the face. For a 3/3 human warrior, other warriors you control get +1/+1. So this is just a 3-mana 3/3 lord, which I think is definitely worse than a 2-mana 2/2 lord. But there's a lot of warriors in this set, especially a lot of 1 and 2 drop warriors. So you could really make an aggressive deck work with this. But unfortunately, it doesn't have any ability that makes equipment any easier. So even though red-white seems to be the equipment-centered color pair, the Signpost Uncommon doesn't really help with that, which was a little awkward. What are your thoughts on this card, Will?
Yeah. Obviously, you're going to want this in your Boros, Warriors deck. Where I would look out for this is for when Kaldheim comes out, which I'm sure is going to have more warriors. So once that comes out, I'm sure we'll get like warrior tokens. That's when I would be looking for a standard warrior deck.
Okay.
So obviously you'll draft this in limited, but for constructed, I'm going to wait till Kaldheim and see what kind of warriors we get for that.
Okay, hot take. I think they're actually going to make the Vikings either their own new creature type or pirates.
I
don't think there will be any warriors.
You don't think Berserker might bring that creature type back?
Berserker was a creature type?
Pretty sure. Yeah. Yes.
That didn't get edited. I'm sure it was. I mean, Uncle Istvan was too. Did they not edit that out in like one of the creature type reworks?
Well, they may not be using it anymore, but it does still exist.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe. I want him to bring back cowards.
Right. I hear you.
But yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, yeah, maybe. But I wouldn't say it's a settled bet. It's a settled thing that the Viking warriors are going to be warriors in Magic.
Right. Real quick, we have a Holler the Clown in the chat here saying this guy's voice is echoing. I assume that this person's referring to me. It's that echoey issue that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. It was not fixed. Let me make sure I don't have two audio inputs on here. I have audio input and then the overall audio. It's under display capture. I don't want to take something off and then have to recreate it and not know how.
You could. We could take the fact that my voice is echoing a little bit as proof that everything I say is correct.
Oh, okay,
it's
sure,
just
yeah.
odd.
How bad is it? Like, is it making it unlistenable?
All right. I will wait for Holler the Clown to get back to us on that.
Yeah, let me know if it's making it unlistenable or if it's just annoying.
All right, they say a little bit LOL. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then we should probably figure out how to fix that. Do you want to switch to a face? Thank you very much.
Let's get back to where we were here.
Zareth is you.
Okay, yeah, this is the guy from the trailer that we saw die. Yeah, good to know that this guy is not going to get any more exposure in the story. Funny that we saw him die before we saw his card. But yeah, we have a Zareth Sand the Trickster, 5 mana, 3 generic, 1 blue, 1 black, for a 4/4 Merfolk Rogue. Has flash, so you can get people with that flash sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Has an activated ability of 2 generic, 1 blue, and 1 black. Return an unblocked attacking rogue you control to its owner's hand. Put Zareth Sand from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So basically ninjutsu is what this is for 4 mana.
Yeah,
and then whenever
just the rules text from ninjutsu?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think functionally it works the exact same way. And then whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, you may put target permanent card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. That's pretty good. Just getting a card for free after ninjutsuing this into play for 4 mana.
Yeah, if the rogue deck is playable in standard, I think this will be one of the cards that sort of helps tie it together.
Oh yeah.
That ability is really strong.
Oh yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I like it. I think there are some decks it's going to kind of be useless against. There just won't be good creatures in the graveyard. But even like blue-white control plays Dream Trawlers, and you could just steal a Dream Trawler.
I think that on the stream, I'm not seeing any cards.
Oh, yeah, shit, I switched it. Okay, yeah, I forgot to switch it back to the correct... Is it fixed?
Yeah, I see the cards
cool.
now.
Gotcha. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I forgot to switch it back. I switched it so that people wouldn't see your name and stuff when I looked you up on Facebook.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, next one is Zagras, Thief of Heartbeats. 4 a red and a black, 4 a black and a red for a legendary vampire rogue, 4/4. This spell costs 1 less for each creature in your party. Flying, Death Touch, Haste. Other creatures you control have Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a planeswalker, destroy that planeswalker. This is a little bit keyword soup. Like, I'd honestly expect to see this in, like, the shitty custom Magic Cards Designs Facebook group.
Yep.
I don't know. This is all right. It gives all your other creatures Death Touch and sort of Planeswalker Death Touch. In the right deck, it can be a 4-mana 4/4 flying Death Touch Haste, which is not bad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this seems good. Once it gets on the field, it kind of looks like Questing Beast. Probably lower power level than Questing Beast, but that's what this card reminds me of. It's weird that because the last ability seems like it's a Golgari thing rather than a Rakdos thing, especially with Death Touch being in red. But I mean, this seems good. I don't think this will make the jump to standard, but this is obviously a powerful card. Don't know if anyone would want to play this as a commander, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe somebody who wants to make like a Death Touch tribal sort of deck. There's been some Death Touch synergy cards over the course of the game. I don't think it'll be a good commander deck, but I mean somebody will probably try to make it. You
would want Golgari for that, though, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. My bad. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. It's just weird that this isn't red. Is what I would say about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely forgot. Yeah, half the Death Touch creatures are in green, so this would not be good at commander. But if you can make the party thing work in limited, like this is a great incentive to play party. Like
just a great card.
Yeah, you feel great to playing this in limited with 0 party creatures, but you're never going to have 0 party creatures, so this is going to cost 4 or 5 mana.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, good card there. Let's move on to the next one. And we are in the rares. I don't know if we mentioned that. Both of the legendary creatures we just talked about were both rare. Yeah. This is another rare here. This is Yasharn, Implacable Earth. 4 mana, 2 generic green and white for a 4/4 Elemental Boar legendary. When this card enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic forest card and a basic plains card, reveal those cards and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So they're not going into play. But players can't pay life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. This is just a weird card. It like draws you lands and then is almost like a double hate bear. It's real weird.
I love this card. I think it's really strong, honestly. The sort of card advantage, like, you know, it's not too unreasonable to play this in a deck with Seasoned Hallowblade, and this just gives you 2 cards on top of being a 4/4 with that second ability. And there's also, people have pointed out that there could be a Naya deck that plays this with Terror of the Peaks. Your creatures are all hexproof because your opponent can't target them because they can't pay 3 life.
Right.
Which is what Terror of the Peaks makes them pay 3 life to target your creatures.
And this is just a 4/4 for 4. Like it could just come into play, draw you some lands, and then just beat. So it's not bad. It's just it looks really weird on the surface. But,
and in that Terror of the Peaks deck, it makes sure you have the 5th land. To play that Terror of the Peaks. True. Yeah, so I'm kind of excited to play that sort of Naya. I know I'll find a way to work Outlaw's Merriment into it, but I'm excited to play that Naya mid-range deck in Standard.
Yeah, a weird-looking card, but we'll see if it gets there. How about the next one?
Virazol, the Split Current. X and green and a blue. Legendary creature, Serpent. 0/0, enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each mana spent to cast it. So not X, but X +2, like basically all the mana you spend into it. So like Stonecoil Serpent. And whenever you cast a kick spell, you may remove 2 +1/+1 counters from Virazol. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. A copy of a permanent spell becomes a token. So you can copy a kicked Jace Mirror Mage to get another token of Jace Mirror Mage, I guess.
Now that's super cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what the most broken kicker card you can copy like with this is. Like obviously if you're just playing it in limited, like you can cast this for 3 and then the next turn bounce 2 of your things and draw 2 cards with the sort of whatever blink of an eye was originally called.
Yeah, Into the Royal.
Into the Royal, yeah. Like that's a great way to use this in limited and possibly in standard. I'm just trying to think of what else is the best stuff you could be doing with this. Like there's, I guess, Moss Pit Skeleton. You can make 2 5/5s.
I don't think that's what you're going to want to be doing with this card.
Right.
Yeah, I think Into the Royal is probably one of the more broken things that you can do with this. You know, you kick it, you draw 2 cards, you bounce 2 things. I'm sure there's other good things. You'll probably just want to play this down and then just start getting like extra value over all the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Are you putting this in Modern Infect so you can copy Vines of Vastwood?
No, I'm not doing that.
It's not going in there with 4 copies of the Green Mythic and 4 copies of the Blue Mythic?
No, it's not. Yeah, where I think this card's really going to shine is Brawl. The casual Brawl on Arena, but, you know, like, that's where I would want to play this the most.
Yeah, sure. And it's got the +1/+1 counter synergy, too. Yep. Maybe Historic Brawl. Like there's like a lot of good +1/+1 counter cards in those formats. So it kind of is the union of the +1/+1 counter theme and the kicker theme because you can put more counters on this guy with other cards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So good card to look out for.
We'll move on. Oh yeah, you've got the next one.
We'll move on to the next one. This is Phylath World Sculptor. 6 mana, 4 generic, 1 red, 1 green for a 5/5 legendary elemental. When Phylath World Sculptor enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each basic land you control. Kind of seems like Vendra Zendikar here, right? And then has a landfall ability. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put 4 +1/+1 counters on target plant you control. This really does seem like the new Avenger Zendikar. Works a little bit differently. If you use it as a commander, it gives you another color. Avenger Zendikar, well liked card. This doesn't let you one shot like Avenger would let you do. So I would say a step down from that card. But
it's worse unless you want to be able to play it as your commander. Then it's obviously better.
Right, yeah, but I mean that card has a lot of fans. This card's probably going to be, it's probably going to be well liked.
Yeah, for sure. I think it will be well liked, if nothing else. So next we've got Aura, Skyclave Hierophant. 2 a white and a black for a legendary core cleric. 3/3 lifelink. Whenever Aura or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric with lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is interesting. This might see some commander play. It might be good and limited if you can surround it with enough clerics. There's good clerics at all 3 of those mana costs. How do you feel about this? I think it's definitely one of the more fair ones.
Yeah. This is basically going to be the cleric commander for Arena Brawl, cleric tribal. Is where this is going to be. Yeah, it's a good card. It's definitely the type of card you would want to be at the forefront of that deck. And if you're just playing clerics, you'd want this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a tiny thing to be said for this in like Modern or Legacy. Once they kill your Giver of Runes to make this, or once they kill your Giver of Runes so they can kill this, if they kill this, you just get your Giver of Runes back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not nothing. I don't think that makes this playable in those formats, but just something to point out. Next, you've got the next card.
So this is Linvala, Shield of Seagate. Now, this is the 3rd time that we've seen Linvala, well-liked angel that resides on this plane. So lots of people are excited to see that she comes back. This is a 3 mana, so 1 generic, 1 white, 1 blue, 3/3 legendary angel wizard. Has flying, and then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, choose target non-land permanent opponent controls, and you basically detain it. Can't attack or block, activated abilities can't be activated, and then you can sacrifice Linvala to choose hexproof or indestructible creatures you control gain that ability until end of turn. So this creature detaining if you have a full party, detains your opponent's stuff, and then serves as a protector, for your team if you have her on the battlefield. Another option for party, as a brawl commander or something like that. With this card, I mostly think, because the most playable Linval is the first one, which is really more of a hate bears type card that punishes your opponent and not being able to activate. What does it do? Activated abilities of creatures your opponent's control can't be activated. Yeah. The second Linvala doesn't do anything near that.
Yeah, it had like landfall, gain life, or some shit.
Yeah. So, it's cool to see Linvala come back, but she's doing, super different things every single time we see. And I think people really want to just see more cards of her in the vein of the first one, where it's just it shuts down something that your opponent's trying to do. But this card, as it is, seems pretty good. It's a 3/3 flying for 3 that can kind of save your opponent, or save your creatures from a wrath or something like that. And if you're leaning towards party, helps you detain your opponent's stuff. This is a nice card.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all right. It is a little bit closer to the first one in terms of what it does. So Linval the Preserver, it was a big. It was basically a big timely reinforcements.
Mm-hmm.
It could gain you life if you had less life, and it made another angel if you had less creatures. So yeah, she's definitely having some identity crises. She's blue now and a wizard. For party purposes, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. This is just the kind of card that, it wouldn't have been designed if party didn't exist. We maybe would have gotten a different Linvala. I don't know. This card's pretty strong, I think, honestly. Just outside of approaching it from a card design perspective. This is pretty playable. It might be standard playable, even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see this making the jump to standard. As just a 3/3 flyer that can save your smaller creatures from a wrath. I think that's playable.
Yeah. So the next one, Kaza Royal Chaser, a blue and a red for a 1/2 legendary human wizard. Flying in haste, tap. The next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control as this ability resolves. So at the very least, it's a 1/2 flying haste for 2 that taps to add 1 to spend on instant or sorceries, basically.
This is terrible, right? I actively hate this card.
I mean, yes. I would rather them not give us a busted, cheap blue-red wizard. Because I remember playing against Adelice the Cinderwind was not my favorite when Dominaria was in Standard. So I'd rather them give us something bad that everyone hates than something good that degenerates love. I can't think of... If you're trying to go wide, you shouldn't want to play any expensive spells banking on being able to make them cheaper with this guy. So he just seems like there's no deck that would really want him.
Yeah, this I don't have much to say about this. This card sucks. I don't like it.
Okay, sweet. Same. So the next one I think I love.
Yeah, it seems like your type of card. This is Grokmaw, Skyclave Ravenger. 3 mana for a 1 generic, 1 black, 1 green. Legendary creature Hydra Horde. It's a 0/0. But it enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever another creature you control dies, if it had a +1/+1 counter on it, put a +1/+1 counter on Grokmaw, so it's going to soak up, quasi soak up all of the +1/+1 counters on your other stuff. And then when it dies, create a XX black and green Hydra creature token, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Grokmaw. So if this dies, you're going to get a big Hydra with all those +1/+1 counters on it. This seems, really fun. People love +1/+1 counters on it. This is another brawl commander that I think will be, pretty popular. Just seems like a lot of fun things you can do with this, especially if you're cheating on the +1/+1 counters.
Yeah, they could have cut a whole line of text on this by just having it be a 3/3 and just make an XX equal to its power when it dies, but I don't know why they didn't just do that. But yeah, this card's good, I think.
Well, it's to play into the +1/+1 counter theme of black and green in this set, right?
Yeah. But it's still gain +1/+1 counters.
And then you can do then it gives you extra synergy with the Ozolith, right?
Oh yeah, you're right. This is extra good with the Ozolith. I might have to bust that deck out again and make it Abzan.
Yeah.
Yeah, put Pelucranos in it too. That seems pretty spicy. Maybe we'll make
Yeah.
that happen.
This just seems like a good value creature, and it plays with +1/+1 counters, which people love. So I think this is going to be a popular card.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obviously one of the best cards in Limited, just because it's a 3/3 that when it dies makes you another 3/3. That's the floor. So yeah.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, so it's Akiri, Fearless Voyager, 1 a red and a white for a 3/3. Whenever Core Warrior, whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creatures, draw a card. And you can pay a white to unattach an equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. Card draw in white.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. All you gotta do is splash a red.
Finally, card draw in white. Red.
There it is. This card, this character was also in the trailer, and we saw Nahiri, pretty much kill her, but there's actually a question as to whether she might still be alive or not.
Yeah, it's like a Sopranos woman death. I think this card is pretty good. This character has had at least one iteration before, I think, and they've been referenced in the lore a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is pretty good. I feel pretty comfortable saying that this is good. The equipment's attached themselves, so it'll be very easy to make that first ability happen, and that's where the power is at. The other ability is just nice for sort of, it doesn't cost anything permanent, and it gives your creatures indestructible, because you can just kind of pay to reattach the equipments later. I don't know if this will see any constructed play, but I think I'm comfortable saying this is definitely good and limited.
Yeah. Again, another brawl commander to look at for arena. I think that's where this is going to shine. People love equipment, and that's like the best place to make equipment work. So that's where I would want to play this. But
I just think there will be a better commander for that in about 3 cards.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's go on to a card that people are super excited about. Omnath Locust. Omnath, Locust of Creation. Omnath has 4 colors now. This is red, green, white, and blue. Legendary creature elemental, a 4/4. When this card enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and then has a landfall ability. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. This is the first time this ability is resolved this turn. If it's the second time, you add 4 mana, 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue. If it's the third time, it deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker you don't control. People love Omnath. People were really expecting it to have another color added onto it, which it did.
Yeah.
As to the power level of this card, it doesn't seem that powerful. And maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but yeah, you can get extra abilities if you do a lot of landfall, which elementals do a lot. But are these the ability of Omnath doesn't seem like it's enough of a payoff for activating extra landfall? Like, what are you going to do with 4 colored mana?
Yeah, Scapeshift is rotating, so there's no good way to enable this.
Right, just gaining 4 life for the first time, that's like nothing. And then the third time, it's 4 damage to your opponent, and then you'll get some planeswalkers, but it doesn't hit creatures. It doesn't do anything else. I just don't think this does enough, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what I would point to is, of course, if you find a way to put the second thing, if you find a way to make the second trigger happen, the third trigger gives you enough mana to play an Uro, which will make the next trigger happen.
That's something. That's something. You could also just play Uro without the Omnath.
Right, but then if you play the Uro after the Omnath, you get to deal 4 damage to each opponent. And it's each planeswalker. It doesn't even hit creatures.
No, it doesn't hit creatures.
Okay, yeah, no, this is pretty terrible. I mean, I thought it was cringe anyway, because it's basically just, look, we did Omnath, but we added another color. We referenced the thing that you like. Give us Reddit karma.
I think that this might be okay as an elemental, an elemental commander that can get incidental stuff from the landfall, but building this as a landfall commander, I don't think makes any sense. And playing Omnath down isn't going to win the game on set.
Yeah, I also think there's better teamer commanders for elementals, like you can just play the Temur Omnath, or you can
exactly.
Yeah, if you're playing Commander. If you're playing Brawl, you can just play the Temur Omnath. If you're playing Commander, you can just play the Cascade Commander. And because white just doesn't give you any elementals. There's not really any good white elementals, to my knowledge.
Sure. Yeah, I'm low on this card.
Okay, yeah, me too. So Nissa of Shadowed Bows, 2 black and a green, legendary planeswalker. Nissa starts with 4 loyalty. Landfall, you get another loyalty. +1, untap target land you control. You may have it become a 3/3 elemental creature with haste and menace until end of turn. It's still a land. -5, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. I don't think this card is as good as the Nissa from War of the Spark. I think this is pretty fair and balanced. What are your thoughts?
It doesn't take much to be less powerful than the Nissa from War. That card was just way too powerful. I think this card is very interestingly designed. I'm sitting here like with my magnifying glass looking at it to try to find the clause where my mana is doubled, and I'm surprised to find out that it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
No, I think this card is good, and I think it's good design because it's not overly powerful on its own. It's kind of like the not the Nissas, Vraskas, or the Vraska from Guilds of Ravnica, where it just comes down and it grinds out value. It gives you the land. I love that the land has menace, and I also love that it's only until end of turn, so they don't just sit there. So I love this card. I think it's a good design. I think it's going to be a role player in Standard coming up, but its true power, I guess, we'll just have to see how the format shakes out.
Yeah, I think it'll see like skirting Standard play. I don't think it's a very powerful card, but I think that's where it should be.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to see how this one plays out. And as you said, yes.
You've got the next card. This one's awesome. I love it.
As you said, I am very excited for this one. I'm glad to see that you are too. This is the new Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients. This is 4 mana, generic, and then red-white. It's a Planeswalker, 4 loyalty. The first ability, +1, create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token. You may attach an equipment you control to it. So get extra stuff out of your equipment.
Yeah.
-2, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a warrior or equipment card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest of them bottom of your library in a random order. So comes down, can immediately -2 search for an equipment and put it into your hand. And then, not really an ultimate, because you could do this immediately. So she doesn't really have the traditional ultimate. Her last ability you can play the turn that she comes down. -3, Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients, deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipments you control. So if you're playing equipments early, you can play this down, shock something, or something similar, have it survive, and then start ticking up with the creatures. This is awesome. One thing to note is that the tokens are not humans, so it works with Winota. It's another one of those. It's a very it's a narrower than what we're the Planeswalker designs that we're used to.
Yeah.
But in that niche, it's very good. I definitely think this will see Standard play.
I think it will see some Standard play too, especially while Embercleave is still around.
Yeah, Embercleave.
Embercleave really lends itself well to this. My curiosity is if the what's the Paladin in Modern that has like equipment fall draw card?
I don't know.
Paladin. I played against it on Mitgo like yesterday, but will the decks that are that guy with like Cheerios with the big hammer, will they not only give up Lurrus but also splash red to play this card?
Pure Steel Paladin.
Yeah, Pure Steel Paladin, that one. Will the Pure Steel Paladin decks in Modern give up what it takes to play this card? Is this card good enough for them?
It's a 4 mana Planeswalker that isn't like breaking the game on its own.
Right.
I don't think it's that powerful.
When it pluses, you get to put in a 1/1 core warrior, and then you get to immediately attach your hammer to it. So it kind of pluses to make an 11/11.
Oh,
or
yeah, I get
9/9. No, 11/11. Yeah, it's an 11/11.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. I'm not too familiar with that deck to be able to say what it can do. I would say at 4 mana, this is probably a little slow for decks unless they find a way to just break it.
Yeah.
But I do think that especially with Embercleave, as you said, but with Noda still being in the format and this making tokens that work with that, I do think that there will be a Boros deck that will use this.
Yeah, I agree.
Great card. This is like the card I'm most hyped to like open up and build a deck with like day one.
Really? Okay, yeah, me too. I don't know if I'm going to craft them on Arena day one, but yeah, I think it's an exciting card, and I'm excited to see how it plays.
Yeah, exactly. Very much looking forward to it.
So I am currently trying to find the place that we were at with spoilers, which last time we went over spoilers was
Saturday the 5th. So what we'll want to do, scroll down to scroll down to the September 5th heading.
Okay.
It's probably about 1/4 down the page.
Yeah, we talked about all of these cards. So we're looking at whatever is above the September 5th.
Yes, we're looking above September 5th. Did we talk about Tazim Raptor?
I think we did, yeah. It's the flyer that bounces land.
Yeah, it's a cool card. There, we reviewed it.
Okay, well, I thought we had already talked about it, but yeah, no, it enables landfall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with Mind Drain.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll just skip all the ones that we talked about before, and yeah.
Yeah. So this is the. Is this the best version of Mind Rot we've ever gotten? It's 2 and a black for a sorcery. Target opponent discards 2 cards, mills a card, and loses 1 life. You gain 1 life.
Yeah, probably. This is what you would play over Mind Rot.
Yeah. Is it better than the one with cycling?
I am just now being reminded that exists. So, no, cycling's probably better.
Okay. Is it? I know it's not better than the 4-drop Mind Rot that had the creature attached to it, the adventure. That one was pretty great.
Oh yeah, that card's great. But the creature was really good. So
yeah. I don't think I feel awful playing this, especially like it curves after the uncommon cleric and puts a counter on him.
Sure. Yeah.
And for the rogue deck, it fills up your opponent's graveyard really nicely.
It is
3 cards in their yard.
Is Mind Rot a card you won't be playing in very fast limited formats?
Yeah, sometimes it'll take off the 4-drop they were planning to cast, so you're not really contested on board, and you can just swing in.
Yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So if this ends up being a fast format, you might want to be looking at effects like this to kind of get those last couple of cards out of their decks, out of their hand.
Yeah, that's the role of Mind Rot in aggressive decks, and I think it's a pretty good one. So the next one, though, is much more interesting, if terrible.
Right, so this is the Mythic Green Bolt Land spell. Turn Timber Symbiosis. For 7 mana, 4 generic and 3 green sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. If that card has a converted mana cost 3 or less, it enters with an additional, with 3 additional +1/+1 counters on it, and then put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in random order. Then it has the flip side, which is a green land that comes into play tapped unless you pay 3 life. This is really cool. My favorite part is how it makes smaller creatures bigger. So even if you kind of miss a little bit and you only get like a Llanowar Elves or something like that, it's at least going to be a very beefy Llanowar Elves. I think this is great. I think that like I said before, any kind of mid-range or above spell deck that's playing green would win at least one of these.
Yeah. I will not be playing this in Modern Mono Green Devotion. For those of you who are curious, I don't understand what this is giving you a discount on other than Emrakul or something, and I know that there are way easier ways to get discounts on those cards and be sure that you're going to hit them. So I think this card is just too expensive to do what it's supposed to do. I'm not high on this card. I don't think it's worth playing pretty much anywhere. I think the card on it, if it were 1 less mana, you would play it because it has the land on the back, but it's just... I think this card is bad enough that you don't want to play it even when the opportunity cost is so low, just because it's not worth having some of your forests make you pay 3 life to put them in.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it. Again, I think the flexibility is worth a lot more than that. But
Yeah,
you're
I think
right.
it is the worst of its cycle for sure.
Yeah, I guess because does kind of require you you have to get something in
Yeah,
those 7, right? Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
There is one insane card in this cycle though. So the next one I have, Concerted Defense, is a blue for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell unless its player controller pays 1 plus an additional 1 for each creature in your party. Spell Pierce countered any non-creature spell as well, right? It wasn't just instant
Yes.
sorcery.
No,
Yeah,
no, it's
okay, yeah. Then this is
non-creature.
strictly this is worse for sure.
One of my favorite moments in Modern was the time I was playing Infect, and I was playing against a blue-white control deck, and I got to Spell Pierce a Getting Jura on turn 5. That felt pretty good.
That is pretty hilarious.
Right, exactly.
One of my favorite moments playing Modern, I was playing against Infect, and they had animated their Inkmoth Nexus. Or I crumbled to dust their Inkmoth Nexus with my main board crumbled to dust because I'm a Chad, and I play main board crumble to dust in my mono green devotion list. And this dude, this fucking fool, he tried to animate it and target it with Apostle's Blessing and give it protection from red. And I was like, you dumbass. This has Devoid. It's not a red spell. It's colorless. You absolute cad. You credulous rube. And I destroyed him with facts and logic. He didn't realize that was how that interaction worked, and he lost that game.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he deserved it. Concerted Defense. I don't like this card.
Yeah, it's a bad card.
It's not the kind of counterspell you want to be playing in limited, and then in standard. Of course not.
If the blue party deck is good in standard between Linvala and the 1-drop and the thing that lets you draw 3 cards and gain 3 life, then this will probably go in the sideboard.
Right.
But
let's move on. Malakir Rebirth. This is an instant. Choose target creature, or for 1 black mana. Instant. Choose target creature. You lose 2 life until end of turn. That creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Normally, when we see this effect, it's actually like an enchantment, right? You have to play it immediately. I like that it's an instant.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's also one of the cards. On the flip side, it has a black land that enters the battlefield tapped. This being an instant, I actually really like because it lets you get your opponent. Plus the flexibility of the land. I like this card.
Yeah, I think this card's awesome. I think it's one of the better land side cards. You play this in any black limited deck for sure.
Right, and you don't get got by being blown out by trying to play by playing an enchantment.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. You get to play it in the moment. You don't get to play it, and then they're just like, "Oh, I'll exile it instead."
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the fall of most of those cards. So you have the next one.
No, you will have the next one.
Oh, okay, cool. Silundi Vision, 2 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 6. You can reveal an instant or sorcery from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and it can be a tapped blue land. I think this is not a great card.
Oh, I was going to say, this is busted.
Oh, okay. All right. The duality of man.
Any mid-range deck and above playing blue and playing any sort of instant sorcery cards would just play the full 4 of this. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because because you the flexibility of it is just worth so much. Getting to look at the top 6 and then getting your choice out of that at instant speed, and then also being a land when you need it. This card's great.
Yeah, I guess we can look at... Yeah, top 6 is a lot of cards. Maybe. I don't think it's insane. I think it's just fine. I think it's a pretty good uncommon. It might see fringe standard play.
I think this will be a defining standard card. The time that's in standard.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm curious what cards you would compare it to that have done that.
I don't really have any to compare it to. I think it's just a good card on its own.
On its own merit. Okay, yeah, I'm excited to see that pan out then. You've got a very exciting card next.
Oh, yeah, tons of people excited about this one. This is Scourge of the Skyclaves. And this is a black card. 2 mana, 1 generic, and 1 black. It's a star creature demon. You can kick it for 5 mana. When you cast this spell, if it was kicked, each player loses half their life rounded up. And then, Scourge of the Skyclave's power and toughness are each equal to 20 minus the highest life total among players. So this is the new Death Shadow. And in true Magic Design Fire fashion, they made Death Shadow and also gave the ability for you to lose life.
Yeah.
Now, will this replace Death Shadow? In older formats, I don't think it will.
No.
But this is just a good card, and it only gets better as the game goes along. And you can kind of get your opponent with that kicker ability. Especially if you're playing a more aggressive style game. I think this is going to be a player in Standard.
This card's interesting for sure. The other thing I want to point out is the interaction with Nethroi, Apex of Death. Are you familiar?
The name sounds familiar. I don't know the card though.
Okay, so when you mutate him, you get creatures with total power less than 10 or less from your graveyard. Mm-hmm. Now, what Scourge of the Skyclaves is in your graveyard is his power and toughness are still what they're supposed to be, and they can be negative. Okay. So, essentially, his power and toughness will be, if both players are at 20, his power is there's a way to get his power negative. So if you've gained life, then he can be like a -10 in your graveyard. And then when you activate Nethroi, you get 10 more power of creatures. And one of the rules managers confirmed that this is how it works on Twitter. So if you have 2 Scourges in your graveyard and you're at 27, you get 14 more power worth of creatures. You just bring these 2 back and they immediately die, and then you get 24 power worth of creatures from your graveyard with Nethroi.
Ooh, wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if that deck will actually be good, but it's certainly an interesting and weird interaction. Or if your opponent has gained that life, it also works in that case.
Right. Yeah. No. This is just this is kind of a crazy card that they're making something that is that close to Death Shadow, and I guess we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a much less exciting card next. Jar Jar Binks' favorite card, Misa Lynx. 1 and a white for a 2/1 cat. As long as it's not your turn, Mesa Lynx gets +0/+2. I think this is an excellent common for what it's worth. It's a 2 mana for a Curd Ape. When it's blocking, it blocks as a 2/3. There's a lot of bears in the set, so it blocks really well. And it's a 2/1 when it's swinging, but you don't have to attack with it until there's nothing that can kill it when you're attacking. So I think this is one of the better white commons. Yeah,
it's a cute kitty cat for all the people who are super into cats and magic. So.
Visible toe beans.
Yeah.
So it would be better if it were like a cat wizard or something, but it's fine.
Right, yeah. So it can attack for 2 when you need it to, and then when it blocks, it's a good blocker. I think this is a well-designed card.
Yeah, so you've got Living Tempest.
Ooh, Living Tempest. This is 5 mana, 4 colorless, and 1 blue for a 3/3 elemental. Has flash and fly. It's a little below rate for the 5 mana flyers that we get at blue and common.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of your It's like your middle of the road blue flyer. You'll want at least one of these in your limited decks. This kind of fills that role. And it's not that bad. And the flash will help you kind of get your opponent with smaller flyers, or just let you hold up your Into the Royals or stuff like that. Yeah,
that's what I was gonna say, holding up a counter spell or something, and then just if they don't play anything with countering, playing this on their end step and then swinging in with it. Is pretty good line of play, yeah.
Very simple, clean design while still slotting into what a slot that we're used to seeing in limited.
Yeah, for sure. So next we've got Skyclave Shadowcat, 3 and a black for a 3/3 cat horror. For 1 and a black, you can sacrifice another creature to put a +1/+1 counter on Skyclave Shadowcat, and whenever a creature you control with the +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. I think it's no accident that this is sitting right next to Moss Pit Skeleton. If you have a lot of mana, these can kind of go infinite every turn, drawing a card and putting Moss Pit Skeleton back, and then you play it, you sack it, put it back on top immediately, etc. Yeah, I think that's a good combo in limited, and I think there's enough synergy in Golgari with +1/+1 counters that this card is good in limited. Otherwise, if they try to, it's a magnet for removal, and if they don't remove it, you can sack your other creatures when they try to remove them to just keep putting counters on this guy.
Yeah, this card's cool. Pretty good. A 4-mana 3/3 is not that below rate, and then just drawing cards when your creatures who in that color combo will just most likely have +1/+1 counters on them. Yeah, this seems great. I'm sure you're probably for pretty much any black deck, you're probably going to be okay playing one of these.
Yeah, and it's not other creatures too. So if he has a counter on him when he dies, you draw a card.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Good. Card's good. Good uncommon.
Right. Good card.
Yeah, you have the next one?
Yeah, we'll move on to Drana's Silencer. This is a 6-mana 3/2 vampire rogue, and it's common. When Drana's Silencer enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls get -1/-1 until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. And then I'm surprised that Hush is. This is the first time that we're seeing that flavor text on a card.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say I'm surprised that they chose that because it's kind of weird and boring. But yeah, you're right. There are probably a lot of... Like, this is in line with the iconic flavor text on Lava Axe.
Yeah, for sure.
Catch.
Now, it counts itself, but -1/-1 on a 6-mana creature seems
6
pretty
mana
weak.
3/2.
I kind of don't like this because it's for 6 mana. You want the full -4/-4, and like maybe you'll get -2/-2, which is not nothing, but like for 6 mana, this seems like it does too little and it's too volatile.
Yeah, as far as Flame Tongue Kavus go, this is Lame Tongue Kavu.
Right. Yeah, and compare it to Bright Breath, the card from Theros Beyond Death. I'm not gonna say this right. Blight Breath, Captoblepus.
Katoblepaw?
I don't know. Compared to that, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean that card was just fine. Yeah, this is a bad card. But next we've got another bad card, Journey to Oblivion. 4 and a white for an enchantment. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party, and it's Oblivion Ring. This is the Dairy Queen hot dog of Oblivion Ring effects. This card's fucking awful. Like in limited, like if you have a full party, it's 1 white. But at that point in time, you could be casting multiple Oblivion Rings on your turn. Also, it looks like he was dabbing. And I don't know if that's just like, sets are designed several years in advance and dabbing was still cool when they made this, or if that was unintentional. But I don't know. There's a lot that's bad about this card.
Yeah. This is, 5 mana for exile target non-land permanent. We're used to getting that just in as an instant in common, right? And for this to be an uncommon and be removable for 5 mana,
and sorcerer speed.
I know you can get a discount on it, but it's just too much. Don't like this card.
No, very bad. But good cards now. You have this one.
Yeah, this one's generating a lot of talk online. This is Wayward Guide Beast. 1 mana, 2/2, creature beast, trample, haste. So, already comparing it to, a very good red 1-drop. But whenever Wayward Guide Beast deals combat damage to a player, return a land you control to its owner's hand. So this obviously isn't Goblin Guide, but it's really interesting, because there's things you can do with that. You can get landfall. You can plan and tap a land, use the mana, swing with this, bring the land back, play it as your land drop, and get extra mana that way. It's really weird, and I think we're really going to have to see how the decks shake out before we see this being a good card. I don't know. I think it has potential.
I've got this pegged as modern playable.
Okay. I would love it if it could be.
I think this with fetch lands and the red step links, like turn 1 you play your step links, turn 2 you play a fetch, crack it, play this guy, bounce the land you grabbed. Mm-hmm. Like next turn you do it again. Like I just think I think this guy will be right up there with Goblin Guide. Mono red burn stops playing land drops at turn 3, so this just stops being a downside.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think this card is great. If Goblin Guide, any format where Goblin Guide sees play, this will probably compete with it. I don't know which one will end up being better, but this is definitely a strong card and definitely one to watch out for.
Right. I don't think you're playing this unless you're playing Goblin Guides 5 through 8. I think Goblin Guides is just what you choose. But yeah. No, I'm willing to believe you on that, and I certainly hope that does. And I do think that standard Red Deck wins will probably want to play this too. But we'll just have to see. It's possible that it couldn't be, but I just love this card and love that it's like generating the discussion about whether it's good or not.
Yeah, pioneer possibility as well, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I've got the next one. Nahiri's Lithoforming, X and double red for a sorcery. Sacrifice X lands. For each land sacrificed in this way, draw a card. You may play X additional lands this turn. Lands you control enter the battlefield tapped this turn. This is hard to understand. I think it's bad. I think this is a card that they put too many extra clauses on to rein in the power, and now it's useless.
Sure, yeah. This is just a combo enabler, right? For standard. Obviously, in anything else, you're going to use Scape Shift. And it'll do better than that. But yeah, just for like standard, this is just like some sort of combo enabler with the Minotaur that gives you extra attack phases or something like that. Otherwise, you're not really going to want this.
Yeah, I would agree. So you've got the next one.
Yeah, very cute card here. We have Canyon Jerboa. This is a creature mouse, 3 mana, 1/2, 2 generic, 1 white. With landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So if you're playing like a low to the ground or white creatures deck, this is the creature that's going to give you the landfall trigger over all of your creatures. I don't think that in limited you're going to be having that many like small creatures for this to really like be super powered, but like you're going to want that +1/+1. If you just have like a normal board. So I like this card both for its cute factor and just having that incidental landfall in limited.
Yeah, this is like an anthem, and it's like potentially an I win button. It's a little more vulnerable to removal than most anthems would be, but yeah. Good card. And I love this art, absolutely.
Very cute.
Shout out to Dominic Mader. So next is Molten Blast. 2 and a red. Instant. Choose one. Molten Blast deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Destroy target artifact. This is a very bad abrade. It's extra mana, deals 1 less damage, but it can hit planeswalkers. So it's either shock or shatter for 3 mana. Usually, when you're making a charm, it should probably cost 1 more than any of those individual effects would cost on their own. Instead, this one costs 2 more. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, 3 mana to shock in limited just doesn't seem like what you want to be doing. At that point, you just want to be looking at like I think we talked about last week, but whatever the 2 mana like 3 damage spell would be, you'd always want to like get that before this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, this card's bad. I think you might play in limited as removal, but yeah, like you said. So you got the next one.
So this will be Reclaim the Waste, which is a 1 mana green sorcery. It kicks for 3 generic, and then search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. If this spell was kicked, search your library for 2 basic land cards instead of 1. So for 4 mana, you're searching for 2 basics, and then put them into play. This seems bad. For standard, you're always going to want what's the one from Ikoria that has cycling but gets you 2 and play.
Something about migration cycle or something.
Migration path, something like that.
Migration path.
Yeah, this just doesn't seem like it gets there at all.
Yeah, I really feel like the kicked one should be a lot stronger. Like, it should let you grab 2 of any land, or it should put them into play or something and be like explosive vegetation, because we've already gotten a strictly better explosive vegetation in the set. For sure. So it's not like that's off limits. Yeah, I think this card's pretty disappointing. But next, we've got Inscription of Insight. 3 and a blue for a sorcery with kicker, 2 and double blue. Kicker that's really entwine. Choose one. If the spell was kicked, choose any number instead. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Target player creates an XX blue illusion creature token where X is the number of cards in their hand. this is 8 mana to do all 3 of those things, and then of course it's above rate. It's like insane to be doing that for 8 mana. But for just 4 mana, scry 2 and draw 2 cards is not awful. That's like a better divination for 1 more mana. Making usually like a 4/4 or 5/5 illusion for 4 mana is not awful. Bouncing 2 creatures is probably the worst mode on this, and it still doesn't feel terrible. Like, it's a lot better when you're doing it with other stuff. But I think this card is obviously excellent and limited. It might sneak its way into Constructed. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I could see this being like a role player in like blue control decks. For 8 mana, this is insane. For 2, I would most likely just be looking to Mana War twice. And then the baseline is just scry 2, draw 2. At sorcery speed, that kind of sucks, but if there is a blue based control deck, I could definitely see this being a spell they want to look at.
Yeah, I agree. So most disappointing rare in the set, you get to read it.
Hey, this card turns on the rogue deck single-handedly. So we have Maddening Cacophony, 2 mana sorcery, 1 generic, 1 blue. It has kicker for 3 generic and a blue for 4 mana. Each opponent mills 8 cards. So, bam, just turning your rogues on right there. If this spell is kicked, instead, each opponent mills half their library, rounded up. I like this card. I think this is going to have a lot of fans.
Yeah, there's a card from Jumpstart that's like 4 mana or something. He's a legendary, and whenever your opponent mills cards, it doubles the number of cards they mill. So that guy with Fist just mills your whole library.
And it curves because he costs 3.
This costs 6.
You're right. 6 for the total. You're right.
Yeah. So it does not curve, but I don't know. I think this card, I don't like mill. I think it's cringe. I think it's bad game design, and I'm glad it's never been good. This is... it turns on your rogues, but your rogues usually turn themselves on. They don't really need help from another card, I think, in practice. Like, usually once you've swung a little bit and the game is gone, they turn themselves on. You don't want to spend a card and 2 mana to do that. So I think this card is pretty awful.
Yeah, but it'll have its fans. People play this card. 8 cards for 2 mana is not a terrible rate. So if anybody's trying to do any mill and standard, this will be a card they'll look for.
Sure. I mean, it's allowed to have their fans, and those people are entitled to their terrible opinions.
Sure.
It's bad. I've got the next one, Nahiri's Binding. 1 and double white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. This feels like it's just a roundabout worse O-ring. Fine and limited. Sucks that it's double white, but I mean it's fine and limited.
This is just the pacifism for limited, right? Just with a little different twist to it.
Yeah, you can hit a planeswalker and they can't activate their activated abilities. So it's a little better than pacifism, but for an extra white, and that's honestly not worth it to me. I think you'd prefer to just have pacifism.
Right. Yeah. I don't think this is constructed playable. I just think of this as the pacifism for the limited environment.
Yeah, I feel like they could have put a land on the back of this and it'd been fine.
That would have been interesting. I'd like to see that design.
Yeah, I feel like they should have done that with Maddening Cacophony too. But yeah, anyway,
Sure.
You have the next one, and this card's a lot more interesting.
Yeah, Kazandu Stomper. This is a 6 mana, 6/5, creature beast, trample, and then when it enters the battlefield, return up to 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. Now, obviously, that's going to let you hit landfall a couple more times. If you're at 6 mana and you're returning, you can play 1. It's not taking you too much away from tempo, especially if you're already up to 6 mana. Yeah. And having trample, I think, really does a lot here. This will probably be a good card for, to top off the curves for those red-green landfall decks.
Yeah, I think this card is an excellent Colossal Dreadmaw for the set. And the fact that that's optional is really cool too, because if you're not in that sort of thing, if you're not dedicated to that, and you are trying to ramp into something bigger, you don't have to return any lands. It can just be an on-curve trampler. So I think this card's super flexible, definitely a great common. You're going to want to pick it up for any green deck.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, so... go ahead.
Yeah.
So next card, Ondu Inversion, 6 and double white. For a sorcery, destroy all non-land permanents. It can also be played as a tapped white land. This is overcosted. I think this could have costed 6 and been fine.
I think it would have been broken at 6.
Really?
I think for this to be not broken, it has to cost 8. Now, for it to that would be too good. Now, with this costing 8, my first question is like, why don't you just play Ugin? You know?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this is less playable than it looks, even though I think it is very playable, with the flexibility of the land. But for this effect, at 8 mana, like, Ugin just does it, and then also survives and starts, bolting your opponent.
Yeah.
So I'm lower on this card, even though I do think it's good.
I would say that I think this is significantly better if it were the Mythic and had, like, the Bolt U to make the land come in untapped, but it doesn't. It's just a tapped land, potentially. I think this could have been 6 or 7 and been totally fine. I think, like, the land thing is handy, especially in Limited, but I think people are overestimating. It can't make a bad card good, and this is a bad card.
Sure. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, you've got the next one?
Yeah, Squad Commander. This is a 4-mana 3/3 core warrior. Someone actually mentioned something on Reddit a little bit ago. They were lamenting the lack of core tribal effects in this new set, and they made a great point. In previous Zendikar sets, a lot of the cores were soldiers instead of warriors. So I thought that was interesting that this is a core warrior or ally. That we're used to seeing core soldiers, and we're not seeing any of that this set. But so we've got
No, you're good. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, so we got Squad Commander here. Like I said, 4-mana 3/3. When Squad Commander enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token for each creature in your party. So at least one, and then you might get more. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. I think it's the indestructible part of this that's going to make that where the real power of this card comes from. Like, I think you want to play this in your party decks, and I think the indestructible will make it worth your while. I don't think that deck's going to be any good, but this will be something you want to look at for that deck.
Sure. Yeah, I think I pretty much agree with you. So the next one, very interesting.
Hey, Frederick, I need to step away just for 2 seconds. Can you talk about this card? I'll be right back.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So the next one is Scute Swarm. 2 and a green for a 1/1 insect with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green insect token. If you control 6 or more lands, create a token that's a copy of Scute Swarm instead. They are all 1/1s at the end of the day. I wish the landfall, like if you have 6 or more lands, they'd instead put a counter on all of them or something. I don't know. But the fact that the growth after that point is exponential is kind of crazy. The next one you makes a Scute Swarm, and then the next land that comes in will make 2 more Scute Swarms, and the next one will make 4 more Scute Swarms. So it just gets out of control pretty quickly if you can repeat those landfall triggers, and then it really doesn't matter what your opponent has, because you can just swing your huge army of insects at them. And I think that's where this card really wants to be. This is definitely not Dragon Master Outcast, though. I would not call this a great card. It'll get out of control and limited and do that scenario that I sort of described, but I don't think that it'll ever be constructed playable. It just dies to removal a little too hard.
Yeah, it just dies. So it's like it's like that. Like, people are gonna love it when it goes off, but I'm never gonna let this go off. It's dying immediately.
Yeah, there's a million Pyroclasms, Flame Sweeps. Even if you let it get out of control, you can put it back under control really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Scute Mob had the same situation where it would go, it would grow and be crazy, but it just died.
Yeah, no, I know this card is definitely better, but I don't think it doesn't fix the issues.
Yeah, for sure. But right. cool to have a callback to a card that people were attached to from the original set. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got the next card.
Yeah, so this is Vast Wood Fortification. 1 green instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So playing into that Golgari, synergy, that wants you to do, and has a creature or has a land on the back that comes into play tapped. Mm-hmm. This is a cheap combat trick. It being instant, +1/+1 counter is enough just to, kind of get your opponent in combat, and then can be a land. I think the fact that this is a uncommon shows that Wizards thinks that this is more powerful than it looks, and I'm willing to agree. And I think this is just a kind of baseline combat trick that you're going to want for your green decks.
Yeah, I think you just play this as a land and sometimes put a counter on your flyer. Yeah.
Sure, that's a good way to look at it.
Oh, yeah, you just play this as a land, and then the other side is kind of just upside on your land. So the next card is Kazandu Mammoth. 1 and double green for an elephant. Landfall, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and it's a 3/3. This card's... it's a rare. This card's pretty obviously good and limited. I don't know if it'll push into constructed. Like, it's just the beefy above curve landfall creature. I don't know if a 3-mana 5/5, maybe 7/7 is like good enough for constructed.
Without trample.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like with no form of evasion on it, I just don't think it'll get there. But it's possible it'll see a little play. This is the kind of card I wouldn't be surprised if it's good.
Yeah, with no trample and it's just the way that it is, and it can be a land too. It comes into play tap. Comes into play tapped. I just think this is for those kitchen table landfall decks. I don't think this is going to make the jump to standard.
I don't know. I will say Lovestruck Beast was more of a house than we thought it would be.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do not think... Yeah, that's true. I don't think that card is this, though.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. We'll see. I mean, it's also possible, like, if landfall enablers are super common, that you could, like, swing in with this as a 7/7 consistently, but we'll see.
Sure,
Yeah, so you've got the next one?
Yeah, so this is Territorial Scythe Cat, 3 mana, 2/1, creature cat, has trample, and then landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Territorial Scythe Cat. And this is a common. I think this is good. That it being +1/+1 counters means a lot. It having trample built in means a lot. I think this is going to be a middle of the road kind of role player in those landfall decks.
I think this is an insane common.
This seems good, yes.
Yeah. Like, this will just get big so quick, and it's got trample. Yeah, this is a crazy common. I think it's one of the best green commons.
Yeah, because you're gonna want to be, like, abusing landfall, too. In
For
decks.
sure, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so next we've got Skyclave Shade. This is like a fixed version of Bloodghast. It's 1 and a black for a 3/1 Shade. Kicker, 2 and a black. It can't block. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on it. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if Skyclave Shade is in your graveyard and it's your turn, you may cast it from your graveyard this turn. That is with or without kicker.
Oh, that's great.
It's fine. Yeah, you didn't have to pay for Bloodghast. This is 1 more power, but you have to pay for it, and it never has haste. So this is... I mean, I know not every black cheap creature can be Bloodghast, but I just don't think this even sees standard play.
Okay, sure. I don't know if any standard decks would want this, but like just on its own power level, this is pretty good.
Yeah, like it's definitely very good and limited. But the can't block clause makes it significantly worse in limited. Like you've got to swing with it, and once it's small, it can't team up to block something. It's just useless.
Sure. Okay.
Until you can kill it and then kick it. So yeah, and there's not enough good stack outlets to make that a possibility. So yeah, I'm just not high on this card.
Sure. Yeah.
You've got the next one.
But if this is in your graveyard, the opportunity cost to just play it and get it for free again or not for free, but have the free opportunity to just play it again, is really not that much. All you have to do is play a land and then pay 2 mana. That's really not that much.
Yeah, or 5 mana for a 5/3. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have the ability to put more into it if you want. I just think landfall plus 2 mana is really not that much to ask for a recurable creature.
I think in limited for sure, yeah. I don't think in standard. But yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. I think if this card is good, then Gutter Bones is definitely better, and Gutter Bones didn't see too much play.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let's move on to perennial favorite, Negate. Gabe's favorite card. This is you love it. 2 mana instant, counter target non-creature spell. Just we're always going to have Negate. It's a good safety valve. I love the art. I love the art on this version. This is one I might look to when I'm looking for the coolest arts to add to my deck.
I don't know. There's an older one that I like, but yeah, this one's all right. Standard sideboard favorite. Usually not good and limited, but very good in standard. Yeah. This is a fine card. Never have anything against it. Good to see it. Scavenged Blade is 1 and a red for an equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attached to a creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and equipped for 2 and a red. Yeah, this card's good. This card is strong. In limited, the +2/+0 being permanent. In white-red, you can slap this on a lifelinker, and then they basically have to trade with it, or you're gonna get out of range for them to kill you if they're aggro. I think this card's good. I think it's a fine common.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah, this is nice. You're going to want to be super aggro with this card. You're looking to end the game on turn 4, turn 5 by attacking with your warriors and getting extra value from this being an equipment. If a super like red aggro deck exists, this is going to want that, and then you get the extra ability. So yeah, this will be a card I'll be looking for in equipment decks.
Absolutely, yeah. So you got the next one.
Ooh, that'll be Ghastly Gloomhunter. This is a 2-mana black. It's a 2-mana 1/1 in black. Creature zombie bat. It has kicker for 4 mana. One of them being black. Flying and lifelink. And then if it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So that's 6 mana for a 3/3 flying lifelink. And this is a common, so that's below rate. A 1/1 flying lifelink for 2 mana really doesn't get there. So you would most likely want to look at this as a 6 mana card. Just if you need a flyer for your black decks, this will be one that you'll look forward to. But it is below rate.
I don't know if I entirely agree with that. Like, you never want to not kick this. I think a 2-mana 1/1 flying lifelink is fine in a lot of games, especially in a set where equipment's equipped for free. This is a great target for equipment. So you play this guy, and then the next turn you play the 1-drop equipment that attaches for free, even multiple copies of that if you can. And this guy's gets pretty stacked pretty quick. They kind of have to deal with him. So I think this card's fine unkicked in a set that's full of equipment.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got the next one. Oran Reef Ooze, 2 and a green for 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. When it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each attacking creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, I think this card's obviously good and limited. I don't think it'll see standard play because it relies on it attacking to really do anything. I think this does a poor impression of Predator Ooze, which is one of my favorite cards. I don't think it's very good.
This is very. I mean, it's the way it's worded. It's a rare, but once it's onto the battlefield, it doesn't really feel like a rare. I mean, it's just a creature that can do a little bit of extra stuff. So not excited for this
for sure. So you got the next one.
Yeah, next card is one that is a bit more exciting. Love the art on this one. Super cool there. Shadow's Verdict. This is a 5 mana, 3 generic, 2 black, a sorcery. Exile all creatures and planeswalkers with converted mana cost 3 or less from the battlefield, and all creature and planeswalker cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from all graveyards. I love this for historic on Arena. Running rampant with sacrifice decks that used tiny creatures and really use the graveyard as a resource. That this card for 5 mana wipes everything on the field. It wipes everything from the graveyard that these decks are playing because they're low to the ground, and basically just kind of
rid of Uro.
Yeah, it just blanks a lot of that. I'm super excited for this card. Don't know about standard, but we'll see. I want to play this in historic.
I love this card. I think it's awesome. It's going to be good as long as Uro's good. Like, against the control decks and ramp decks, it gets rid of the Uro's in their graveyard, and against the aggro decks, it wipes the board. What's not to love? I think this card's insane. I had an argument in a Facebook group in one of the scrubbier Facebook groups about the templating of this card. This guy was like, it doesn't need to say, it should just say exile all creatures and planeswalkers with CMC 3 or less from battlefield and graveyards. And I was trying to explain to him that it's not a creature or a planeswalker in the graveyard, it's a card. And that's why they have to template it that way. And yes, it makes less sense, but it makes the game run smoother, and he just wasn't having it.
What is the value in criticizing the way Wizards words cards? They know what they're doing. They know how their game works. They don't need Joe Nobodies on Facebook telling them how to word their cards. They know how to do it.
In his defense, it would make more sense to be worded that way, but it would also make a lot of other cards not make as much sense. And it would fuck with the templating. I was just trying to explain it to him nicely.
Seems like a crazy thing to like you can get mad at Wizards for a lot of things, but the wording of their cards in terms of rules, don't do anything else with your time.
Yeah, for real. Okay.
But this is a good card.
Yeah, it's self-evidently good. Speaking of good cards, Felidar Retreat, 3 and a white for an enchantment. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Create a 2/2 white cat beast token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. I think this card is obviously great and limited. Awesome cubable card. Will it see standard play? I think maybe. It's like it's 4 mana, but it's an anthem that keeps making your creatures bigger and gives them vigilance. Or if you don't have any creatures, like if you just survived a board wipe, it's an anthem that just keeps helping you get creatures. You know, it's sort of it's got Field of the Dead staple. This is the card Field of the Dead should have been.
Finally, Field of the Dead in white. White finally has access to this powerful land. Yeah, I like this card. It's good. Like, you're just going to get landfall. This comes out on turn 4. Like, you're going to get more lands. It gives you some. It makes drawing lands off the top better later in the game. It creates creatures on its own. Anthems. Yeah, I don't think this is like a super like powerhouse, but like it's pretty good. Some control decks may want to just play this just as a 4-drop that sits on the field and just gains value over and over again. I like this card.
Yeah, I agree. I think this card is very good. So you have the next one.
I don't know about this one. It's probably better than I'm giving it credit for, but it looks a little weird. This is Sizzling Barrage. Red. It's a red common. 2 mana instant. It deals 4 damage to target creature that blocked this turn. The fact that your opponent has to block and also knows that this card exists in the limited format means that they're going to be able to play around it. And if the creature blocked, they're most likely going to trade with the creature that is also that it's in combat with. So I'm low on this card. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but it just seems like it's not doing enough to really earn a slot.
Yeah, I think this card's definitely bad. For sure. You pretty much like for reference, the white cards that hit things that attack or that are attacking or blocking, 90% of the time are hitting something that's attacking. Just because that's something your opponent has to do. Your opponent doesn't really have to block in the way that they have to attack to advance the game. So I think this card's going to be too niche to be useful.
Yeah, for sure.
But
how about the next one? Seems a little more playable.
Yeah, another 2-drop that deals 4 damage in red. A sorcery, Thundering Rebuke, deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker. The immediate comparison here is Lava Coil, which can't hit planeswalkers, but does exile the creature if it dies. So do we think this is better than Lava Coil?
And Lava Coil is very clearly standard playable.
Yes.
Right. This hitting Planeswalkers is great. Exile is obviously good on its own, but and sometimes you cared about the exile, but not all the time.
Yeah.
I think this is just as playable as Lava Coil.
Yeah, absolutely. I think possibly even more depending on how strong planeswalkers are. Like, obviously, many of the good ones are rotating with War of the Spark. Like, that was the big planeswalker block. So maybe if we'd had this a little earlier, that would have been nice. But I think this was a safety valve in case, like, the new Teferi was really broken and they hadn't accounted for it or something.
Right, for sure. Definitely playable in standard. We'll just keep this card in mind if you're building anything in red and standard.
Absolutely, yeah. And if the new Nissa is good, like, yeah, maybe this helps, but it doesn't kill her in one shot. So maybe we'll have an Oko situation where, like, Fry can't even kill Oko.
Oh, they should do better than that. But all right, let's move on to Scion of the Swarm. This is a 5 mana. This is a black and common. 5 mana for a 3/3 vampire cleric. Flying. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on Scion of the Swarm. So obviously not as good as what's the 3 mana one?
Bloodthirsty Acrobat.
Yeah, something like that. Obviously not as good as that, but it is a 3/3, flying for 5 mana, and if you're playing that deck, there are probably incidental ways to gain life. If you're leaning towards clerics, there'll be a lot of that, and it'll just grow. I think this is just a good card. So it's a big flyer. So.
Yeah, I wonder if there are any actual cards that are like that would be better if they costed 2 more and had 1 more power.
Huh.
I'm trying to rack my brain like as a thought exercise to figure out which cards would be that way, and I can't really think of any. Yeah, I think this card might be a little bit too slow to be good, but I mean, I don't know. If your bottom of your curve is filled with lifelink creatures, then you could have this guy coming down as like a 5/5 flyer, basically. Yeah, so I think that shouldn't be discounted. I think this card might see some limited play. So next is Fireblade Charger.
Goblin Warrior for a red. As long as Fireblade Charger is equipped, it has haste, and when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. This card's awesome. I think this will see some standard play.
Yeah, I actually really like this card. I don't know about its power level, but I just love the card.
What? Will likes an aggressive red card?
Yeah, I know. Who the thunk it? Yeah, I could see this seeing play if there was an aggressive deck in Standard that cared, like, wanted to use equipment like Nahiri or something like this. This is a good one drop.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, next card you've got.
Yeah, so this is Master of Winds. This is a blue rare. 4 mana for a 1/4 Sphinx Wizard. Has flying. When it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards and then discard a card. So, you're drawing a card with a little bit of extra value. Mm-hmm. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery or wizard spell, you may have Master of Winds base power and toughness become 4/1 or 1/4 until end of turn.
Yeah,
so
interesting how they didn't just say switch its power and toughness.
Right, yeah. So, you don't have to switch. It can just stay the way that you want it to, or just stay as the 1/4 that it originally is.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know how powerful this is. It doesn't look that powerful on its surface. Wouldn't you just want a 4/4 for 4? Like those exist.
It's a flyer that replaces itself.
Yeah, that's true.
Draw 2 cards, discard a card. Like, that's not bad. And I mean, it's not too hard to trigger the second one. It itself is a wizard, so if you're playing 4 copies of this, then the next one you play turns this one into a 4/1. I wouldn't discount this card. I think it's fine. I don't know if it'll see any constructed play, but I think it's an alright card. I love the art on this.
The art's pretty cool. This is a very fair card.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So that means it's not going to be good in the Standard.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I've got the next one, Glasspool Mimic. 2 and a blue. For a Shapeshifter Rogue, you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a Shapeshifter Rogue in addition to its other types, and it can come in as a tapped blue land. I think this card's fine.
Yeah, it continues to add to your party if you care about that.
Yes, yeah. And I guess it can't be both of them for your party. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, this card's good. I think in limited, 3 mana Shapeshifters are generally pretty valuable. 3 mana Phantom copy. I don't remember what the general term for this effect is, but yeah, those are generally good and limited. And this one can also be a land if you really need it to be. So yeah, I think Glasspool Mimic is definitely gets my seal of approval for limited playability.
3 mana is like the right amount to pay for a clone ability.
Yeah.
And then having the land attached to it for the extra versatility. Yeah, this is just a good clone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no Phantasmal Image, but they can't all be Phantasmal Image.
I'm sorry. I'm getting all of the Mythic Bolt lands. But
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll move on to Agadeem's Awakening. This is the black modal bolt land that has a spell to it. This is a 3 black mana and then X as a sorcery. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. And then it flips into a black land that you can pay 3 mana to come to play untapped. This is the best one out of all of them, right?
By far. Yeah, I think this one leaps and bounds better than the second best one.
Right. Now it does say converted mana cost, so it's not like different mana costs just naturally. So if you cast this for 3, you can get a 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana card.
Yeah.
That's the way to think about this. But yeah, this is just good. And to cast it for 3 only costs 6 mana. So for 6 mana, you're drawing 3 cards from your graveyard.
You also get an Ornithopter.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Ornithopter is seeing historic play right now.
Okay, yeah, I mean, seeing the modern play too. I mean, there are always going to be decks that want 0 mana artifact creatures.
For sure.
I don't think that the decks that play this would want them, but here's the thing that people have been talking about. Doesn't take a genius to see that this might see some modern play in Death Shadow. It returns a Death Shadow. There's 2-drop creatures in that deck. Some of them play Snap. Some of them might play the new Death Shadow-esque creature. And then there might be some 3-drop creatures that make their way into that deck, so you could cast this for 6 and bring everything back. Or, the Death Shadow will want 4 of these just because you can play it as a swamp that makes you pay 3 life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's better than a shock land. Like, you know, in Death Shadow, why shock yourself when you can bolt yourself?
Yep, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
this card will
This
definitely
seems
see
great.
play in Modern, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of people are already saying this goes straight into Death Shadow. I think it just has natural use beyond that in like standard or historic. Yeah, I agree that this is probably the best of the cycle.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely for sure. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who disagrees that this is the best one in the cycle. And now you keep getting all of the cool mythic flip bolt lands, but I get the
Windrake?
Drakehaven clone. This is Roost of Drakes. It's a blue for a 2 and a blue kicker enchantment. When Roost of Drakes enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. And whenever you cast a kick spell, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with flying. Now, I will take this opportunity to remind you that Drake is a pedophile. He groomed Millie Bobby Brown, and his music does not even slap. But Roost of Drakes is a good card. I think
it does seem good. Yes.
Yeah, if it's 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer, and then every kicker spell you play after that gives you. You never want to play this just for a blue, but you can play it for, you can play it for 4, and then next turn into the Royal, bounce something, draw a card, get another Drake, swing at both in the next turn. Like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. This is fine. On its own, it's a 4 mana Windrake, which is not great, but like playable. You know, like sometimes you just need a 2/2 flyer for 4. And then if you're playing Simic, you're going to be loading up on kicker spells, and then this just keeps going. Pretty much for free once it's already onto the battlefield.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't usually want to play it on 1, but if your hand is full of kicker spells, you could just play it on 1 and then get that extra value. Like set it and forget it, as they used to say on the infomercials. Play it and then just gain all that, all that value. I love this. I think this will be a good card.
Yeah, absolutely. So next you've got the big dorky green mythic.
Oh, yeah. Ancient Green Warden. 6 mana, 5/7, elemental. It has reach. You may play lands from your graveyard. And then if a land entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Very big splashy effect. I know people are talking about doing stuff with this in standard. For a 6 mana dorky creature, I don't think that's this will be good for like commander to get extra value off the things you're doing. I don't think this really has standard applications, but it's definitely a good card. Like people will want this for commander.
Yeah, it's also obviously very good in limited landfall decks. It doubles all your landfall triggers. You don't need us to tell you that. But yeah, Commander and Limited is probably where this sees all of its play. Bayin Veil, continuing the trend of Will getting mythics and me getting turds, is 1 and a blue for an instant. Creatures your opponents control get -2/-0 until end of turn, and it can also be a tap land. This is another one of those cards where, if this is the test for if you'll play literally anything that has a land on the other side, because these effects are never good. They can occasionally turn, in Magical Christmas Land, they'll turn 2 trades into wins.
Right. This is the worst one, I think.
I think the 6 mana black one that drains your opponent for 4 is probably equal to this one.
Sure. Okay. I think that this is worse than that one. But yeah, this is bad. I don't think this is not one you'd want to play at all.
Yeah, definitely bad. So you have the next one. You finally get a bad card.
Okay, yeah, finally. Strength of Solidarity. Green sorcery. Choose target creature you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature in your party. A lot of the party cards count themselves, but since this is a sorcery, it doesn't count itself. So this can literally do nothing. This can literally do nothing, and it's a sorcery. So no, this is bad.
This will literally do nothing. But cards that don't do nothing. Null Priest of Oblivion, 1 and a black for a 2/1 menace lifelink. You can kick it for 4, and if you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is so flexible. It's either a 6-drop Reanimator spell with a free Child of Night attached to it, or it's just a Child of Night, which is pretty good and limited. And the Child of Night also has menace, so you're going to get to hit them a couple more times and gain some more life. It's going to get you really good early game sort of tempo.
Yeah, this is great.
Just life gain sort of, big life swings. Yeah, this card's awesome.
This is great. I love this.
Yeah, for sure. Flexible. Good in aggressive limited decks. Good in late game as well. Awesome. Do you think this will see standard play?
I think so. I think this is just above that line to like where it can be, where it can play. I see it kind of fulfilling that, like what's the one drop knight that sees a lot of play where you can pump it. Like this isn't that card.
Yeah.
I think this is that same level of playability.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
where it's just a cheap creature that gets better as the game goes on, but like just kind of interacts in combat and stuff like that. I think this is a good card. The next card, we've seen it before. This is Smite the Monstrous.
Sweet art. Shout out to Izzy.
Yeah, white common, 4 mana instant, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. Limited formats just need a card like this, you know, for white to be able to get rid of huge creatures. So it'll be like a lower tier pick, but you know, you can play it in your white decks if you really need to get rid of something big.
Yeah, I would agree. So next we've got Tuk Tuk Rubble Fort. I really do keep getting bad cards. This is 2 in a red for an 0/3. Creatures you control have haste, and it's got Defender and Reach. Will said he really liked the Monstrous Footsteps in Ikoria Limited, and this kind of like that. It's a lot worse.
Monstrous Footsteps. I have no idea what that card is.
It was something you enchant your land with, and you could tap the land to give a creature trample and haste until end of turn, and it had cycling.
Oh, that's the card that has the big paw print in the middle of it, right?
Yes, yeah, you said you were high on that card.
Oh, okay. Did that card end up being good? I never played Ikoria Limited.
Yeah, you would play it in any cycling deck, and many other red decks you would play it in just because that ability is fine and the opportunity cost is so low.
Yeah, this is not that, though.
Yeah, no, this is... the opportunity cost is so low because it costs 1 and it has cycling for 1. They took that card and then made it really bad.
It's cool to give all...
decent.
Yeah, it's cool to give all your stuff haste, but like this card is just not worth playing on its own.
Absolutely, yeah, no, this card's bad.
No.
So next card, speaking of kind of strictly worse, except this one's just literally strictly worse.
Yeah.
You have it.
Deliberate. Is that what it says? Deliberate.
Deliberate, yeah.
Oh, okay. Deliberate as in thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a blue common, 2 mana instant, scry 2, then draw a card. Yeah, like, who would, like, no one wants this, right?
You didn't play Opt-in Limited, generally. Unless you were in,
exactly.
really hard into Spellslinger's deck, you just wanted cards that did things. Which sucks, because this art is really cool. I like this art, and if this were just on Opt for me to play in Constructed, like, if I could just play Opts with this art, that would be really cool. But, no, it's on a strictly worse Opt that no one will ever play in any format.
Yeah, this is bad. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, Skyclave Squid. You get the cool cards, I get the Squid. 1 in a blue for a 3/2 defender. Landfall, loses defender this turn. Yeah, this is a great 2-drop for limited for home.
Yeah, for 2.
You know, you're going to have landfall most of the time, so it's a 2-mana, it's an above curve creature most of the time.
Y'all ever squid?
Y'all ever just squid?
Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, it reminds me of that merfolk from wasn't the merfolk from Eldraine that was like a 2-man defender, but it could lose defender. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I think it was significantly worse.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, this is definitely better than that, for sure.
Yeah, I like this card as a common. Yeah. We'll move on to the next one. This is a Namana Sky Dancer, a black common, 3 mana, 2/1, human rogue, flash and flying, and then when it enters the battlefield, target opponent mills 2 cards. If you need a Windrake in black, this is a good one, and it has flash, so it gives you a little bit of that extra.
Yeah.
You're pretty much paying 1 point of toughness for that.
Yeah, it gets your other homies ready, and I think it's worth the other point of toughness 100%, especially because there's no 1/1 flying tokens in this set.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. If you just need a flyer, you need a rogue. This seems like a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So next we've got Core Celebrant, 2 and a white for a 1/4 core cleric. Whenever it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. It's an expensive Soul Sister.
It's too expensive for constructed.
For sure.
Basically, this is going to be one of the ways that you get those life gain triggers in your cleric decks.
Oh yeah, and limited, this card's going to serve a very specific and good role. I think this will also be fine in the party decks. It lets you stall until you see your big payoff. Yeah, because it gains you some life. A 1/4 body's great for stalling in limited. I think this card's great in limited, but obviously not constructed playable. You got the next one.
Yeah. So I remember this being a red card, but it's in blue now. This is Tazim Royal Mage. It's a blue common, 2 mana, 2/1, Merfolk Wizard, but with kicker 4. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Am I crazy, or did this used to be a red card?
Yeah, in Dominaria, there was a 1/3 in red that did the same thing, and the kicker was 3 in a red.
Right,
It was
exactly.
a human wizard, yeah. G2 something.
Yeah, honestly, this seems like a good card, though. Baseline, it's your 2-drop 2/1, and then the late game, you pay 6 mana and you buy back your red removal spell. Yeah, so
absolutely.
Yeah, it just seems like a good 2-drop for those decks. Like the wizard, is it Wizards deck?
Yeah. So Mom said it's my turn with the good cards. Shadowskull Charger, 1 and double red for a 4/3 giant warrior with kicker 2, trample, haste. If Shadowskull Charger was kicked, it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, if Shadowskull Charger doesn't have a +1/+1 counter on it, return it to its owner's hand. So it's kind of got dash. It's kind of a dash card in a roundabout way. Kicker has a weird way of bringing back old mechanics. Like there's some entwined cards in here.
Yeah.
And this is a dash card. How do we feel about this?
I can't see, as of right now, I can't see this seeing play over the
Bone Crusher Giant.
Bone Crusher Giant. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
For sure.
I think that this is worse than that. But I mean, 4/3 trample haste for 3 mana out of the gate. That's not bad. I could see this being kind of like one of those flex cards in red deck wins if for some reason this is what you want. I definitely want to play this card. It definitely seems really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I like the art too.
And to kick it, it's only 5 mana, and you can get to 5 mana. In some
for a 5/4
games,
trample haste, it's a Monstrosaur.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a more flexible Monstrosaur.
Yeah.
So you got the next
absolutely, and that card's great. I love that card. Okay, next one. This is Scatter Skull.
Shatterskull.
Let me try that one more time. You can tell these long streams get to me. This is Shatterskull Minotaur. Is a red uncommon. This is a 6 mana, 5/4 Minotaur warrior. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party and has haste. 5/4, 6 mana, haste. That's below rate, but you're playing an aggressive deck. You might want that. You'll probably get 1 mana off of this, maybe even 2 mana.
Yeah, if you get 2 mana off this, it's insane.
Yeah. So if your deck just needs like a big hasty thing at the top of its curve, this will be what you're looking for.
Yeah, you could do a lot worse, and the party decks will want this for sure, especially if you get the red-black party rare or any of the party rares. Like it's not as synergistic with party as the other colors, but there are decks that'll want this in limited for sure, and it's an uncommon, so it won't be too hard to find.
Right. Okay, so the next card seems to be Vito's big titty golf girlfriend. Can you tell me about the next card?
Yeah, Marauding Blight Priest, just 2 and a black for a 3/2 vampire cleric. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. People are talking about how this cheapens the mana cost on the combo of Sanguine Bond Explicit Blood, but it also makes it die to Lightning Bolt, so I don't think it's going to be good. But it's fine. This is a great common for limited. For the black-white life gain deck, it's gonna on gummed up board states. It's gonna eventually end the game.
I gotta look up Veto real quick just to make sure this works the way I think it does. If you gain life, target. Yeah, so this plus Veto is a infinite loop, just like the 2 enchantments. So that's what you were just talking about, right?
Well, no, Veto is just the same thing as this.
Let me look at that one more time.
For Veto, it would have to be whenever your opponent loses life, you gain that much life.
Loses that much life. Oh, they do the same thing.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's
for
the
some
same
reason,
card.
for some reason, I thought they worked off each other and
No,
entered a thing. Okay, I misunderstood that, but
kind of do. Like she gives you more triggers, but they don't go infinite. If that's what you're thinking.
my joke still works though, so I'm
Yes,
gonna
is.
hang on. I'm
Absolutely.
gonna hang on to that. But yeah, you're right. It just makes them die to removal. So for the formats where you would try that, you're not really gonna do this. But you're not gonna play this over those. But you could do it in standard now. So
Yeah. But yeah, you've got a Nimble Trap Finder.
Nimble Trap Finder, this is a blue rare, 2 mana, 2/1 human rogue. Can't be blocked if you have another cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So it wants you to play party creatures, not necessarily have them on the battlefield.
It does.
Although its second ability does want that, though. At the beginning of combat in your turn, if you have a full party creatures you control game, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card until end of turn. So it becomes, like a creature that's going to draw cards. This seems okay. I think this is another super fair card. This card's not broken on its own, but you'll draw some cards off of it if you build your deck right. So, do you think that this is powerful?
I think if you're playing the blue-white party deck, which seems to be building itself in Standard, you auto-play this card.
That's true.
This kind of does the same thing as Otter from Ikoria, but like a little bit more efficiently. I think if you play that deck, you want this card. This is a 2-drop. It's a rogue, which is probably the hardest of those creature types to come by in that color pair.
Sure.
And yeah, it curves you toward the 2 mana, draw 3 cards, gain 3 life, which is what you want to be trying to do with that deck.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so I think this card's fine. It draws you cards later. It's a good 2-drop for a mid-range party deck, which is the one that might see some Standard play.
I will say that the cards like this that have been printed recently have not been seeing play. So I'm thinking of like Selfless Spirit. Man, I don't know the names of any of these cards, but the ones that were just printed. Do you know the one that was just printed in M21 that I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's like when it untaps, you can pay a mana, draw a card, and something else. Yeah. That card was not good.
These cards recently have proven themselves to not really be playable, but maybe this is one that can go over the hump.
I think this is the strongest of them. Whether that means it's strong enough to see Standard play is debatable.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so I've got the next one, Thundering Spark Mage, 3 in a red for a 2/2 human wizard. When it enters, deal X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of creatures in your party. So 1 minimum, maybe 2. This is sketchy Flame Tongue Kavu.
It's better than the black version of this.
That is not difficult. I think that card's in the running for worst card in the set.
Sure, yeah. So you'll most of the time you'll just ping something, maybe get a shock out of it, but like you'll play this. I mean, there's no reason not to play it.
It can't hit players, so it is often just a 4-mana 2/2 if there's nothing for it to kill.
Yeah, this isn't super powerful, but I mean you'll get something with this most often. So
yeah, maybe If they have removal, they can always kill your other party creature in response to this coming in, and it's just 4-mana 2/2. But I don't know. I'm not very high on this card.
Yeah, but you're still gonna play it, right?
Maybe no. I don't know.
Okay.
I think the 5/4 haste that's cheaper based on your party is better, and that's a common. I think in red, if I'm in red-white especially, but if I'm just in red, there's better party creatures even. Yeah, I don't think I'm usually gonna play this.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So you've got Crab.
Charix, I think is how we're saying that.
Yeah.
Charix, the Raging Isle. This is a blue rare, 4 mana for a 0/17. I am assuming we haven't seen that before.
No.
Legendary creature, Leviathan Crab. Spells your opponents cast that target this card costs 2 more to cast. And then 3 generic for Charix gets +X, -X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control. So you're going to want to be playing a lot of like basic islands with this, or things with island subtype, to really power out this bomb ability. With that being the case, I don't think that this is that good. If there was another way to change the power and toughness other than just based on land types that you have, this would be pretty good. But as of right now, this is just kind of like a it's so cool that this exists, but not really powerful on the field.
You can activate it multiple times, I guess. I really feel like this card would be balanced even if that were just a static ability. He just has +X, -X, where X is the number of islands you control. 17 is such a weird arbitrary number too. I don't know. I like the art. Victor Titov, good job, but I don't think this card will see any play anywhere. I think it's kind of weak and gimmicky and weird.
Sure, I'm not looking to play it, but
So next we have a bunch of cards from the Commander set, so we can safely ignore those.
Yeah, let's skip those. I will say, how do you say this? Anawan, the Ruin Thief. I remember that card, like him having
the Ruin
card
Sage.
earlier. I think it's cool that he's back as a rogue, because his whole thing was he was like a scholar or something, even though he's a vampire. So that's cool that he's coming back and he's getting blue. I think that's very flavorful for him. Commander cards, we're going to skip them.
Yeah, Commander cringe. Okay, so we have just a few commons and uncommons left and then we're done.
Yeah, we're gonna power through it.
Yeah. So do you want to get this one, or do I? Forgot who did the last one.
I don't remember.
Okay, cool. Turn
it's
Timber
you.
Ascetic. 4 and a green for a 5/4 giant cleric. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. This is a good 5-drop. Yeah, you know, we've had 5-mana 5/5 vigilances before. This is roughly on par with that. Gaining life at that point in the game can be really helpful against aggro, and then he just sort of walls your opponent out. So yeah, I like this.
If you need a 5-drop,
Sorry,
if you need a 5-drop, this is one. It's a cleric. It gains you life. It adds to party. You know, this is a fine 5-drop.
Yeah, and clerics are hard to find in green. So yeah, I like this a lot. You got the next one?
Yeah, Pyroclastic Hellion. This is a red common, 5 mana for 5 creature Hellion. When this card enters the battlefield, you may return a land card you control to its owner's hand. When you do, this card deals 2 damage to each opponent. That by itself is probably not that powerful. Getting the second land drop, or getting another chance for a land drop to trigger other things is probably worth more than that. Red decks are probably wanting to do something a bit more powerful at 5 mana. Even though this kind of plays into the landfall trigger, you're probably going to want to look for something that does a little bit more than this. But just like with the previous card, it is just a 5-drop that sits down and just gums up the board if you need that. So this is kind of that kind of like D+ level card for those landfall decks.
Yeah. So next we've got Vanquish the Weak, 2 and a black, instant, destroy target creature with power 3 or less. Not much to say about this. It's limited removal.
Is this a reprint?
It feels like it. I would be surprised if this isn't at least a functional reprint. I guess we can look.
Let's look. I gotta know.
This has been a sorcery for 1 less mana.
Ixalan.
Oh, okay. It was an Ixalan. Okay. This has also been a sorcery for 1 less mana in Origins called Reef Soul. But yeah. Card's fine.
Yeah.
Limited removal.
Yeah, this is going to be premium removal for black.
Yes. So you've got the next one. This card's weird.
It's someone made. I can't claim this as my own. Someone else made this joke on Reddit. But with black, basically with black cards, it either kills a creature or it does something that blue does but costs life. And this is definitely in that vein. It's a blue card. It's a blue card that's just costing you life. So, Blood Price, this is a black common, 4 mana sorcery. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 2 of them into your hand, and then the rest on the bottom of your library in any order, you lose 2 life. So, kind of expensive, but if you need card draw in black, like this is, okay. And it gives you a little bit of selection too. So
Yeah, I will say there are multiple limited formats where we've gotten this that puts the extra cards in your graveyard instead of in your bottom of your library, and it hasn't really been played in those formats. Yeah, I think if that's any indication, I think you're looking for graveyard synergies in black, so putting them on the bottom is pretty much strictly worse. So I don't see this seeing play either.
Right. Yeah. Dark Bargain. Did that see any play in Ikoria?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, so this probably won't be that good. But if you need to draw cards, it's there. How about the next card?
Yeah, Chilling Trap. 1 blue for an instant. Target creature gets -4/0 until end of turn. If you control a wizard, draw a card. I don't know how I feel about this. I've felt okay taking the your opponent's creatures get -2, -0 until end of turn, draw a card in 4-set limited formats. The controlling a wizard is not too hard to make happen, and if you do, then this negates one of your opponent's creatures attacking and draws you a card, which is probably where you want to be.
The Izzet deck is basically just wizards, so if you have that deck, this will almost always draw a card.
And this triggers all your wizards too, so yeah, I think this is good. It's fine.
Did they name this Chilling Trap just as a reference to trapped cards from the original Zendikar?
Maybe, and that would kind of just make people angry because this isn't a trap.
Kind of made me a little angry. It kind of made me a little angry. I saw Chilling Trap. I was like, "Oh no, they're bringing a trap back," and then it wasn't. They should have just given this the subtype trap.
Yeah, although I'm sure there's some rules baggage, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
not my favorite.
Fair enough. So I'm not super excited about this, but that isn't Wizards deck probably wants it.
Yeah.
Next card, you could tell this was like the dregs that they were, releasing right at the end.
Yeah, no one's excited about this. They were all revealed by magic.wizards.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pressure Point. This is a white common, 2-mana instant, tap target creature, draw a card. Now, it does draw a card, so, like that adds a little bit to it, but at the end of the day, you're just tapping a creature.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't be playing a card that has more of an effect than this.
Yeah, this didn't see play in Khans of Tarkir Limited, and that was the last place I remember it being in. It's been in one core set since then, and it didn't see play there, so, yeah.
Right, yeah, not excited about this one.
Expedition Healer, 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance, and it has a lifelink as long as you control another Cleric. I think this card's pretty awesome for being spoiled the last day. It's often going to be just a 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance lifelink, which is about as much as you can ask from a common bear.
Yeah, that's a fine bear.
Yeah, for sure. Then you've got the last one, the last
card.
card.
All right, so this is our last card, and they saved us a doozy for the very last one. Not really. This is a white uncommon, Allied Assault, 3-mana instant, up to 2 target creatures each get +X, excuse me, until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party.
Yeah.
See, again, like the green one we talked about, you have to have something in your party. This doesn't count itself. This could just do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Now, most of the creatures you play will incidentally be party members.
Yeah.
I just think this is a bad
Uncommon
combat trick.
Yeah, I would agree largely. I mean, if both of the creatures are party and they're different party members, then it's going to give them each +2/+2, and then this is a fine combat trick. If you have 3 party members, this will win you the game some of the time, but I think you don't want more than one of these in a draft deck.
Yeah, and that's probably why it's an uncommon, is because if you're doing really well, it can just kind of be an I win button, but it's most likely not always going to be that.
Right, it's very often not going to be. So yeah, that's Zendikar Rising. What are your closing thoughts?
I am really excited for the decks that Nahiri is going to enable. I like the aggressiveness of the cards that we're seeing, especially with the new new mostly worse Goblin Guide, the Nahiri, the equipment, a Menace, more Menace cards coming out. That's what I'm looking forward to. What are you looking forward to?
I'm mostly looking forward to the same thing as you are, equipment themes. I'm sad we didn't get a good piece of equipment in the set for Stoneforge Mystic to grab in Modern. Party doesn't look super fun. I'm glad we're getting a red Step Links. I think that'll enable some fun. So overall, I'm pretty excited for this set. I think it's going to be a really fun limited format. That is what I'm mostly excited for, is to jam some drafts of this set on Arena. But yeah.
I believe that this releases on Arena in, a week? Less than a week or something like that?
Yeah, I heard it was September 17th, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that same weekend, though, the Mario 3D All-Stars comes out for the Switch. Like a re-release of all the games I soy faced for, so I'm going to have to split my time between those two.
Right, yeah. Looking forward to the set. I'll definitely jam some sealed when it comes in, see what's going on in standard. But I am excited to go back to Zendikar.
Yeah, me too. I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you, everybody who tuned into the stream and decided to watch us talk about spoilers. I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Yes, absolutely. This is, as we said at the beginning, I will @AgroRhetoric on Twitter, one half of the Gutshot podcast, the only Magic the Gathering podcast. And, Frederick, thank you for having me on the stream.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on the stream. The VOD will be available on our YouTube channel.
We'll put it up
on YouTube. But look up Gutshot MTG, because otherwise you'll get a bunch of reviews of a probiotic.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put this up on YouTube. That way our bad opinions are forever immortalized.
Yeah, like when I didn't know that Into the Royal, or that Momentary Blink, or Blink of an Eye was a reprint of Into the Royal. Oh,
I've said 10 worse things than that just tonight, so you're good.
I'm still contemplating committing Sudoku over that. But yeah, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.
Absolutely. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, goodbye. And I'm shutting off the stream.